Chapter 191. Since he had to be as fast as possible and make as little noise as possible, then he could only use his wits and not force his way in. First, he released the soul-chasing bees to investigate properly and see what kind of demonic beast was entrenched on Linji Mountain. After the time it took to brew a cup of tea, the soul-chasing bees that went to investigate all returned. According to the information that the soul-chasing bees found, there was only one low-grade rank 2 demonic beast on this Linji Mountain. This demonic beast was called the Crimson Fire Ape. It had a body of red hair and its innate spell was fire control. Its temper was also very irritable. The Crimson Fire Ape's cultivation could reach middle grade rank 2 at most. This Crimson Fire Ape still had room to grow. However, Wang Daoyuan was not interested in subduing it. It was best to nurture a spirit beast that recognized its master from young. Otherwise, it would not be obedient. If the Black Ape did not have the Horned Thunder Ape bloodline and had an extremely high growth limit, Wang Daoyuan would not spend so much effort to subdue it. The Crimson Fire Ape was only a middle grade rank 2 demonic beast at most. It did not have any special abilities, so it was useless to keep it. The opponent was a rank 2 demonic beast. Wang Daoxing and Wang Daoyin could not help. If they were close, they would be easily injured. Therefore, Wang Daoyuan let them stay outside the range of heaven/mountain range. After taking down Linji Mountain, he would let them help clean up the surrounding rank 1 demonic beasts. As for this Crimson Fire Ape, it was better to leave it to the Black Ape to deal with. It was just nice to see how capable it was. Previously, when he subdued it, he relied on Yunyi's flying advantage to crush the Black Ape, forcing it to only throw lightning balls. The close combat that ape-type demonic beasts were best at was not used at all. Furthermore, he had already subdued the Black Ape for close to a month. This guy had to be served half a caddy of crimson blood wine every day. He had to let it do some work. Otherwise, wouldn't it treat him like a lord? Taking out the Black Ape from the spirit beast pouch, he pointed at Linji Mountain and said, "Thunder Ape, there's a Crimson Fire Ape on this mountain. Go and kill it." Wang Daoyuan named it. This guy's intelligence was close to an ordinary adult and had high requirements for a name. It was not willing to call it Little Thunder, Thunder, or Black Ape. Finally, it was satisfied to call it Thunder Ape. Hearing Wang Daoyuan's words, the Thunder Ape extended its hand towards him. He wanted benefits, and the benefits were naturally wine. Wang Daoyuan said sternly, "How are you going to fight when you're drunk?" The lightning ape sat on the ground and refused to get up no matter what. It was almost rolling on the ground. Wang Daoyuan had no choice but to take out a white jade wine pot. This wine pot was not big and could only hold half a caddy of wine. The Thunder Ape was a pure drunkard. It would drink as much as it was given until it collapsed. Fortunately, he didn't put it into the space of the spirit pearl. Otherwise, the hundreds of jars of wine stored in the cellar would all be gone. The Thunder Ape snatched the jug of wine and did not drink from the spout. Instead, it opened the lid and poured the wine into its mouth. The jug of wine was emptied in just a few breaths' time. The Thunder Ape returned the wine jug to Wang Daoyuan and burped. After that, he used all 4 of his limbs to quickly climb up Linji Mountain. Just as the Thunder Ape climbed up Linji Mountain, it heard an ape's roar. Wang Daoyuan immediately rode on Yun-Yi and flew into the sky. He overlooked Linji Mountain and watched the battle between the Thunder Ape and the Red Fire Ape. The Thunder Ape didn't know how to conceal its aura. Just as it climbed to the top of the mountain, the Red Fire Ape sensed that there were enemies. There was an ape's roar, and the Red Fire Ape drilled out from the bushes with a rod in its hand. The Red Fire Ape was covered in red fur and was over 3 meters tall. The rod in its hand was made of wood and was over 6 meters long. This rod might be emitting the spirit energy waves of a Tier 2 inferior grade spirit item, but it didn't have any traces of refinement. It should be a branch of some spirit tree that the Red Fire Ape used as a weapon. When the Red Fire Ape saw the Thunder Ape's 10-meter tall body, it was a little afraid. The Thunder Ape didn't take advantage of it and circulated its spirit energy, shrinking its body to 3 meters tall. Wang Daoyuan was stunned. He knew that some demonic beasts could change their body size, but it was usually only tier 3 demonic beasts. He didn't expect the thunder ape to know it too. If he knew, he would have made it smaller. He was only as tall as the thunder ape's thigh, and it was too embarrassing. After the thunder ape shrank to the size of the red fire ape, the red fire ape finally had some confidence. The thunder ape might have a high cultivation level, but its appearance was similar to a regular black ape. The black ape was a weaker tier 2 demonic beast, and its innate ability could only strengthen its body. It couldn't be compared to the red fire ape's fire control. Since the thunder ape had invaded the red fire ape's territory, how could the red fire ape back off? The red fire ape wielded a long rod and struck at the thunder ape. The thunder ape might have the horned thunder ape's bloodline, but it was more similar to the black ape. Its body was tough enough, and it wasn't afraid of the red fire ape in close combat. It clenched its fists and faced the red fire ape. The red fire ape brandished its long rod and struck from the thunder ape's left side. The thunder ape took a step forward and caught the red fire ape's long rod with its left hand, holding it tightly. The red fire ape tried to retrieve the long rod, but it was a pity that the difference in strength was too big. It tried a few times but failed. The thunder ape grabbed the long rod with its left hand and punched at the red fire ape's head with its right hand. The thunder ape was much stronger than the red fire ape. If this punch landed on the red fire ape's head, the battle would be over. The red fire ape wasn't stupid. It immediately let go of the long rod in its hand and used its arms to block the thunder ape's punch. Unfortunately, this punch was too fast, and the red fire ape's right arm couldn't keep up. It could only block with its left arm. The result was obvious. The red fire ape was sent flying 4 to 5 feet away. If a human Foundation establishment cultivator was hit by this punch, they would have lost the ability to resist even if they didn't die. However, the red fire ape had thick skin and could still stand up after taking this punch. Its left arm was trembling a little and its head was a little dazed, but it wasn't seriously injured. The thunder ape was also quite graceful. It threw the long rod in its hand to the red fire ape. The red fire ape caught the long rod. It knew that it couldn't beat the thunder ape in terms of physical strength. So it decided to use its strength and use fire elemental spells to attack from a distance. It opened its mouth and shot out a ball of flame the size of a bowl at the thunder ape. The thunder ape also channeled its spirit energy, covering its right hand with a layer of light blue spirit energy. When the fireballs flew in front of it, the thunder ape waved its right hand left and right like it was swatting away flies, scattering the 2 fireballs. The red fire ape saw that the fireballs were useless and spat out a ball of flame to swallow the thunder ape. The thunder ape quickly dodged and avoided the flames. The red fire ape's 2 spells didn't harm the thunder ape at all, but ignited the surrounding vegetation. Wang Daoyuan naturally wouldn't watch the surrounding vegetation burn. This was all his family's property. He cast the level 2 spell, Sweet Rain spell. A black cloud hundreds of feet in diameter appeared in the sky. A moment later, a downpour came. The flames that the red fire ape released were all extinguished. The vegetation that had been half dead from the fire started to have life again. Sweet Rain spell was a spell of a ling plant farmer. The rain that came down was rich in ling energy. It could be used to heal ling plants and replenish the ling energy used in the ling fields. However, it used up too much ling energy, so ling plant farmers wouldn't easily use it. Because the Wang family's ling fields were watered by Jade Dragon spring water, they basically didn't need this. The battle between the thunder ape and the red fire ape continued. The thunder ape used its higher cultivation and stronger physical body to easily dodge the red fire ape's attacks. Also, the thunder ape had a playful attitude, only dodging and not attacking. The red fire ape couldn't do anything to it. In the end, the red fire ape couldn't take the humiliation anymore. It didn't cast long-range fire elemental spells, but gathered crimson red fire ling energy on the surface of its body. Even the long rod in its hand was covered in a layer of fire elemental ling energy. It held the long rod and walked step by step towards the thunder ape. It looked like a flame giant. Chapter 192. This was a move used by demonic beasts that specialized in close combat. It looked like it was wrapping all of its spirit energy around its body, but it was actually infusing it into its bones and muscles. When it attacked, its spirit energy and physical strength would be mixed together, greatly increasing its physical strength. When it hit its opponent, not only would its physical strength cause direct damage, but its spirit energy would also invade its opponent's body, damaging its meridians and organs. Seeing that it was going all out, the Thunder Ape stopped fooling around and gathered a lot of thunder spirit energy on its fists. The Red Fire Ape rushed up and waved its long rod. With the support of fire spirit energy, the Red Fire Ape's attack speed and strength had greatly improved. The Thunder Ape didn't dare to take its attacks head-on. It could only rely on its advantage in speed to dodge the attacks and wait for an opportunity to launch a sneak attack. The Red Fire Ape's spirit energy was severely depleted and couldn't maintain it for long. In at most 15 minutes, the Red Fire Ape's spirit energy would be depleted. The Thunder Ape only gathered spirit energy on its hands and didn't use much of its spirit energy. It could fight for a few hours without a problem. The Red Fire Ape wasn't an ordinary beast. The continuous battle had stimulated the battle instinct flowing in its blood. His moves became faster and faster, and the power of his moves became stronger and stronger. After the time it took to brew a cup of tea, the Thunder Ape had been dodging and defending. Wang Daoyuan was a little anxious. The two giant apes had been fighting for too long and could easily alert the surrounding demonic beasts. If he hadn't released the soul-chasing bees to guard the surroundings and didn't notice any movements from other rank 2 demonic beasts, he would have killed the Red Fire Ape long ago. However, the battle quickly took a turn. The Red Fire Ape took advantage of the Thunder Ape's weakness and hit its left shoulder with its rod. This strike was powerful and heavy, and it also carried fire attribute spiritual power. A charred wound appeared on the Thunder Ape's shoulder. Wang Daoyuan could even smell the smell of burnt flesh. The Thunder Ape was completely enraged. Blue thunder spirit energy flickered on its left shoulder and forced the fire spirit energy from the Red Fire Ape's rod out of its body. Then, it merged all of its spirit energy into its bones and muscles. Its whole body flickered with blue light and lightning from time to time. At this moment, a single horn appeared on its forehead again. After transforming into its strongest state, the Thunder Ape didn't dodge anymore and directly faced the Red Fire Ape. The Crimson Fire Ape swung his staff again, and the Thunder Ape met it with a punch. With a cracking sound, the long staff made from the branch of a Tier 2 spirit wood was broken by the Thunder Ape's punch. The Crimson Fire Ape was shocked by its power and retreated. The Thunder Ape was still fuming after being hit by it. How could it let it off? He rushed forward and used his right shoulder to hit the Crimson Fire Ape's chest, sending it flying. The Thunder Ape's attacks were also infused with lightning-type spiritual energy. The lightning attribute spiritual energy entered the Red Fire Ape's body, and the Red Fire Ape was instantly paralyzed. It couldn't resist even if it wanted to. The Thunder Ape did not stop there. The Crimson Fire Ape was sent flying, and before it landed on the ground, it chased after it and punched it in the stomach. This time, the Crimson Fire Ape flew more than 30 meters away and crashed into a large tree before coming to a stop. The Crimson Fire Ape leaned against the tree, and before it could catch its breath, the Lightning Ape rushed over and landed dozens of punches on its body. Soon, the Crimson Fire Ape died. Wang Daoyuan was frightened by the Lightning Ape's angry appearance. If he didn't have the advantage of being able to fly, he would have been beaten to death by it. After killing the Crimson Fire Ape, the Thunder Ape's anger finally subsided. The spiritual energy in its body also returned to its body. The injury on the Thunder Ape's left shoulder was very serious, but it didn't care at all. It stretched out its hand towards Wang Daoyuan, who was in the air. Wang Daoyuan ordered Yun Yi to land on the ground and passed a bottle of wine to the Thunder Ape. The Thunder Ape snatched the bottle of wine and gulped it down. Wang Daoyuan used a rejuvenation technique on the wound on its left shoulder, and the wound quickly healed. This was only a superficial wound. The internal injury caused by the fire spiritual energy still needed to rest for a period of time before it could completely recover. After the Thunder Ape finished drinking, it returned the bottle of wine to Wang Daoyuan and found a random tree to rest. Wang Daoyuan still had to deal with the aftermath. The Crimson Fire Ape's corpse had to be dealt with. After all, ape-type demonic beasts looked more like humans. It wasn't appropriate to eat it like other demonic beasts. He used a flowing sand technique to wrap around the Crimson Fire Ape's corpse. 50 to 60 breaths later, the Crimson Fire Ape's corpse turned into a pile of ash. Then, he noticed the large tree behind the Crimson Fire Ape. This was a peach tree. The trunk was very thick and needed 2 people to wrap their arms around it. The Crimson Fire Ape had been sent flying and crashed into this peach tree. Then it had been pressed against the tree by the Thunder Ape. This peach tree was completely undamaged. It seemed that it wasn't a normal ling wood. From the ling energy vibrations that this peach tree gave off, it was a second-tier low-grade ling wood. Normal low-grade ling wood would be broken after being tossed around for such a long time. But this peach tree was completely undamaged. Most peach trees looked the same. There were peaches on the trees, but they had just grown and weren't as big as grapes. It was hard to recognize the species. When he asked the clan to send a ling plant farmer to take care of it, he would know what kind of peach tree this was. He used his consciousness to scan the surroundings and found that there really weren't many peach trees here. There were 60 to 70 in total, but the other peach trees were all smaller. Among them, the bigger ones were only as thick as an adult's arm. It couldn't compare to this large peach tree that needed 2 people to wrap their arms around it. Disregarding the species of this peach tree, how could he let go of a second-tier spirit plant that could bear fruit? He found a peach tree that was more than 5 feet tall and as thick as an adult's arm and transplanted it into the space of the spirit bead. He planted it in an empty plot of land that was reserved around the life spiritual fire. The life spiritual fire was already 5 to 6 inches tall at this time. The radius of its influence had also reached more than 6 feet. Wang Daoyuan cut some branches from the hidden cloud tea and inserted them around the life spiritual fire. Currently, he had already successfully nurtured more than 10 tea saplings that were more than a foot tall. Wang Daoyuan named the peach tree saplings that carried the life spiritual fire peach. More than 500 years had passed in the space, but the life spiritual peach was still as unmoving as a mountain. Wang Daoyuan walked towards the depths of the peach forest. Previously, the Crimson Fire Ape had walked out from here. Soon, he arrived in front of a huge boulder. This boulder was more than 10 feet tall and should be the highest peak of Linji Mountain. Below the boulder was a cave that was more than 10 feet tall. He used his divine sense to investigate it. There were no obvious fluctuations of spirit energy inside, so it should be safe. He went straight into the cave. This cave wasn't big. It was 6 feet wide, 3 feet long, and more than 6 feet tall. There was only a stone couch that was covered with hay inside. This should be the Crimson Fire Ape's nest. In the innermost part of the cave, there was a pile of wood. Wang Daoyuan was a little curious. Did the Crimson Fire Ape sell wood? He walked towards the pile of wood and casually picked one up to check it out. He could clearly feel that there was a large amount of liquid in the wood. He picked up the wood and carefully observed it. This wood was a tree trunk, and it was a first-tier spirit plant. At one end of the tree trunk, he found an obvious crack. He gently twisted it, and the tree trunk separated along the crack. A strong fragrance of peaches and wine spread out. This Crimson Fire Ape had really become a spirit. It actually knew how to use spirit peaches to make wine. If he knew that this Crimson Fire Ape could make wine, he wouldn't have killed it. It was a pity that he couldn't kill this Crimson Fire Ape. He took a sip. This fruit wine wasn't as strong as the crimson blood wine brewed by the 12th uncle. But after swallowing it, a fragrance lingered in his teeth and cheeks. It had a unique flavor. Moreover, the wine brewed by the spirit ape was much weaker and contained more spirit energy. It was more suitable for recovering spirit energy. Suddenly, a black figure with blue lightning jumped in from outside the cave. It turned out that the thunder ape had followed the fragrance of the wine and found its way here. It snatched the wine from Wang Daoyuan's hand and took a sip, revealing an intoxicated expression. Wang Daoyuan scolded with a smile, "You wastrel, you killed this crimson fire ape that knows how to make wine." The thunder ape looked at him and then at the wine in his hand with disdain. Chapter 193. Wang Daoyuan asked in pleasant surprise, "You know how to brew wine?" The lightning ape had a smug expression as it nodded. Wang Daoyuan suppressed the joy in his heart and said expressionlessly, "I'll give you a chance. If the wine you brew is good, I'll double your wine every day." Hearing this, the lightning ape became spirited and ran away with the 2 pieces of the tree trunk that contained the wine. The lightning ape looked down on the wine that the crimson fire ape made, so the wine it brewed was at least level 2 Ling wine. Wang Daoyuan felt that he was being black-hearted for a winemaker who could brew level 2 Ling wine and only got a salary of 1 caddy of crimson blood wine every day. Even if the lightning ape could make better wine, the wine made by the crimson fire ape could not be wasted. This wine tasted better than the crimson blood wine, had more Ling energy, and was not easy to get drunk on. It was very suitable for cultivators who did not have a high tolerance for alcohol and had a wider market than the crimson blood wine. The crimson blood wine was good, but the raw materials were all level 1 Ling medicines. Even if it was stored for many years, its potential was limited. The raw materials of the crimson fire ape's wine were level 2 Ling peaches and had much more potential in the cellar. It would be a pity to kill the crimson fire ape. The recipe for the wine could be analyzed from the distiller's grains. The crimson fire ape did not know how to make distiller's grains, so the distiller's grains it used were either natural distiller's grains, or they were like the homemade wine in his previous life without distiller's grains. If it was the former, then the raw materials of the distiller's grains would be mixed into the distiller's grains. An outsider like him would not be able to analyze it. It was more appropriate to leave it to the 12th uncle. He immediately sent a message to the 12th uncle to inform him of the situation and to have him arrange for a Ling plant farmer to come over and take care of these peach trees. After solving the problem of the Ling wine, he sent out Yun Yi to fetch second brother and Dao Yin. Wang Daoyuan walked out of the crimson fire ape's den and patrolled all of Linji Mountain. The peach forest and the crimson fire ape's den were both at the top of the South Mountain. The top of the South Mountain was relatively more rock and the Ling plants that grew here were mainly Ling trees. It was not very suitable for Ling fields, but very suitable for orchards and trees. There were very few rocks on the North Mountain, and the terrain was relatively flat. The spirit plants that grew there were also mostly low-growing spirit herbs. It was very suitable to open up a spirit field. In his opinion, it wouldn't be a problem to open up 40 to 50 mu of spirit fields on the Northern Mountain. In the middle of the North Mountain, there was about 10 mu of land that could be developed into a second-stage spiritual field. If it was given to a Ling plant farmer to manage, there would be more Ling fields. Not long after, Yun Yi brought second brother and Dao Yin over. Wang Daoyin stared at the peach trees as soon as he arrived and even broke the branches. After observing for a while, he said, "Brother, these peach trees should be golden silk peaches, which can grow into second-grade spiritual trees." The branches of the golden silk jade peach were extremely hard, and their strength was considered to be superior among the second-grade spiritual trees. They were very suitable for refining magic tools. They are limited by the grade of the spiritual veins in this place. If they are transplanted to the Jade Spring Peak, they will be able to grow into second-tier high-grade spiritual trees. Although Wang Daoyuan did not recognize the golden silk jade peach, he knew a thing or two about this type of spiritual wood. The fruit of the golden silk jade peach was dark green in the beginning. The fruit matured after 10 years, and only in the 2 days before it matured would the fruit quickly turn from dark green to golden yellow. The golden silk in its name did not come from the fruit, but from the branches. The branches were densely covered in golden silk patterns, causing the wood to be very hard. It was one of the best among the second-grade spiritual trees. He looked at the branch that Wang Daoyin had broken. The fracture was densely covered in golden silk patterns, and was the same as described in some books. 2 hours later, the 12th uncle descended from the sky on his sword. After landing, he took off the Ling beast pouch at his waist and let out 2 people. It was fourth uncle Wang Shouyuan and fifth brother Wang Daozong. The two of them walked the path of ling plants. When they heard they had found a second-grade spiritual wood, they had hurried over and had the 12th uncle put them into the ling beast pouch. The two surrounded the largest golden silk jade peach and carefully studied it. The 12th uncle also asked anxiously, "Where is the wine brewed by the spirit ape?" Wang Daoyuan pointed at the cave and said, "It's all in the cave." 12th uncle, I feel that the spirit ape's level of wine brewing is higher than yours. Wang Shi glanced at him and ignored him. He jogged into the cave. After a long while, fourth uncle Wang Shouyuan patted the largest peach tree and said regretfully, "What a pity. If this golden silk jade peach grew on Jade Spring Peak, it would have long since become a high-grade second-rank spiritual tree." After saying this, he patrolled the north and south mountains and said to Wang Daozong, "Don't touch the south mountain. Leave it to grow golden silk jade peaches and some other spiritual wood. The north mountain is flat. With your ability, it won't be a problem to open up 15 mu of second-grade spiritual fields and 60 mu of first-grade spiritual fields. In the future, you will stay here to open up spiritual fields and take care of these spiritual plants." After a while, Wang Shi came out of the cave and said, "Keep all the spiritual plants here for the time being. The raw materials used by the Crimson Fire Ape to brew wine should all be spiritual plants in this area. If they are all uprooted, I won't even be able to cry. It won't be too late to open up spiritual fields after I've researched the recipe for this spiritual wine. Daozong will take care of these peach trees first. As for the production here, according to the old rules, Daoyuan, you take half. If the spiritual plants here are transplanted to other places, you will also get 30%. After saying this, he took out a storage pouch and handed it to Wang Daoyuan. "This is a second-grade low-grade formation. Use it first. In this heaven/mountain range, without the protection of a formation, we can be ambushed by demon beasts at any time." Wang Daoyuan took the storage pouch and hung it on his waist. Fourth uncle and fifth brother dug up 3-finger-thick peach tree saplings and put them into the storage pouch, preparing to transplant them to Jade Spring Peak. After taking care of the peach tree saplings, fourth uncle and 12th uncle prepared to leave. Wang Daoyuan naturally couldn't let fourth uncle enter the spirit beast pouch again. He sent Yin Yi to send the two back to Jade Spring Peak. Yin Yi had now become the Wang family's dual-purpose flying tiger for passenger and cargo transport, and it was still enjoying itself. After fourth uncle and 12th uncle left, Wang Daoyuan took out more than 10 green jade formation discs. This formation was called the Yi Wood Withering Formation. Through the formation, one could release common first-grade and second-grade wood attribute spells. The most important use of this formation was to nurture some spiritual plant seeds, such as the sawtooth vine. When the sawtooth vine seeds were placed in the formation and used the formation to cast a twining spell, their growth speed would be much faster. However, a formation set up with a formation disc didn't cover a large area. It could only protect the entire peach forest. For a spiritual mountain of the size of Linji Mountain, the entire mountain top was extremely valuable. It would be best to set up a permanent formation core and cover the entire mountain. Unfortunately, to set up a permanent formation core, one needed a solid formation level. If one didn't know the way of formations, they couldn't set it up at all. Wang Daoyuan hadn't learned how to set up formations yet and didn't know how to connect to spirit veins. To activate this formation, the energy supply relied entirely on spirit stones. In the current situation, Linji Mountain had to have a foundation establishment cultivator guarding it at all times. Otherwise, demon beasts would want to occupy this territory very soon. If the formation wasn't enough to protect Linji Mountain, it had to be made up for in other ways. Wang Daoyuan scattered sawtooth vine seeds around the foot of Linji Mountain. Using the twining spell, the seeds sprouted rapidly. His wood attribute spiritual energy had the attribute of the fire of life. The sawtooth vines grew very lush. After spending 3 days and exhausting his spiritual energy several times, he cultivated a wall of sawtooth vines that was 10 feet wide and 6 feet tall around the entire Linji Mountain. For second-grade demon beasts that couldn't fly, it was very difficult to cross this barrier. For the convenience of his clansmen, he even left a small curved path that could only allow one person to pass on the west side of Linji Mountain. Chapter 194. Linji Mountain was the first transit point for the family to the Five Elements Mystery Realm. To relocate the family without arousing suspicion, the first thing to do was to make this place safe. Before the Linji Mountain could support the safety of thousands of mortals, there was no point in building the next transit point. Wang Daoyuan had already chosen the next transit point. It was called Fallen Dragon Ridge. Fallen Dragon Ridge was 300 miles east of Linji Mountain. It was not a lone mountain like Linji Mountain, but a continuous chain of small mountains. Fallen Dragon Ridge was like a giant dragon, winding and spiraling on the ground. It was more than 1,000 miles from east to west. These days, he had sent out soul-chasing bees to investigate. After losing more than 100 soul-chasing bees, he had basically figured out the situation of Fallen Dragon Ridge. There was a large upper-grade Tier 2 spirit vein that was almost 1,000 miles long on Fallen Dragon Ridge. There were also many smaller Tier 1 spirit veins around it. If such a huge mountain range was developed, thousands of acres of spirit fields would not be a problem. Even Tier 2 spirit fields would be a few hundred acres. However, it was extremely difficult to take down this mountain range. There were no Tier 3 demonic beasts on Fallen Dragon Ridge. However, there were more than 20 Tier 2 demonic beasts. There were as many as 5 upper-grade Tier 2 demonic beasts. Given the current strength of the Wang family, it was impossible to take it down. If they went around Fallen Dragon Ridge and opened up another passage to go around 1,000 miles long mountain range, they would have to build at least 5 or 6 more transit points, which meant that they would need 5 or 6 foundation establishment cultivators to guard it. Furthermore, no matter how they went around, they would not be able to completely leave 1,000 miles long mountain range. The passage and transit points were always under the threat of the demonic beasts of Fallen Dragon Ridge. There was no safety to speak of. If they could take down Fallen Dragon Ridge, they would not have to take a detour and would also greatly reduce the number of transit points. The entire Fallen Dragon Ridge was protected by 2 or 3 foundation establishment cultivators with an upper-grade Tier 2 formation. It was extremely safe. The distance between the Five Elements Mystery Realm and Linji Mountain was only a little more than 3,000 miles. The easternmost part of Fallen Dragon Ridge was only 1,000 miles away from the Five Elements Mystery Realm. After managing Fallen Dragon Ridge, they would only need to build 1 or 2 more transit points to reach the Five Elements Mystery Realm. Taking down Fallen Dragon Ridge was not something that could be done now. Once his cultivation reached the late stage of the Foundation Establishment Realm, he would be able to quickly kill second-rank high-grade demonic beasts. Only then would he be able to go to Fallen Dragon Ridge. It would take an average cultivator at least 50 to 60 years to go from the first level of Foundation Establishment to the late stage of Foundation Establishment. He had the 5 Spirits Immortal art, which allowed him to condense 2 types of spirit seeds. His cultivation speed had increased significantly, and with the unlimited cultivation resources, 20 to 30 years would be enough. Taking down Fallen Dragon Ridge was not something that could be done overnight. The most important thing now was to practice the legacy of the Five Elements Spiritual Master. At the very least, he would need to be able to set up a second-tier low-grade array formation on his own and be able to protect the entire Linji Mountain with the array formation. He released the Thunder Ape, Yin-E, and Jin-E to protect Linji Mountain. If any demonic beasts dared to approach, they would kill them immediately. He entered the Crimson Fire Ape's nest and went into seclusion. Wang Daoyuan took out his doppelganger Qi Yun from the spiritual pearl. He used the soul-splitting blade to create a new subsoul from his own soul. After nurturing it for a while, he took out the soul fragment that the clone had nurtured for many years and injected the new soul fragment into the clone's sea of consciousness. After fusing the sub-soul fragment with the main soul, his spiritual sense cultivation only increased by 1%. There was no point in using a Qi refinement cultivator to nurture a subsoul. In the future, he would have to refine a few Foundation Establishment doppelgangers. Of course, the value of Qi Yun's doppelganger was not in increasing the spiritual sense cultivation. The main value was the array formation cultivation experience. After all, Qiyun was once an upper-grade second-tier array formation master. After fusing with the sub-soul fragment, Wang Daoyuan began to learn the array formation experience from the sub-soul fragment. 3 days later, after looking through all the array formation experience and techniques in the sub-soul fragment, he began to practice setting up arrays. The Tao of array formations was similar to the Tao of talismans. For talismans, one would first learn about runes, while for array formations, one would first learn about array patterns. There were obvious similarities between runes and array patterns. Ordinary runes were many basic runes that were combined into a large rune according to a certain pattern. When this large rune was injected with spiritual energy and spiritual sense, it would be able to cast a spell. Array patterns were also formed from basic array patterns. Through different arrangements and combinations, with different array core materials, they would have different effects. There were many similarities between basic runes and basic array patterns, but there were also many differences. Mastering one method, mastering all methods. As an upper-grade second-tier talisman master, Wang Daoyuan had a deep understanding of runes. It was not difficult for him to practice array patterns that were similar to runes. Coupled with Qiyun's experience and techniques, he could be said to have made rapid progress in the Tao of array formations. 3 months later, he was already able to set up all the common first-tier arrays and became an upper-grade first-tier array formation master. The bottleneck between an upper-grade Tier 1 array master and a lower-grade Tier 2 array master was nothing to him. As long as he practiced more, he would be able to master second-tier array patterns and quickly become an upper-grade second-tier array formation master. In these 3 months, with the Thunder Ape holding the fort, no second-tier monsters dared to come and seek death. Second brother Wang Daoxing and younger brother Wang Daoyin also often went out to bully first-tier monsters. Wang Daoxing was at the peak of qi refinement and cultivated the glassy golden body art. No first-tier monsters could take him down. Wang Daoyin was at the 7th level of qi refinement. Although he did not have a suitable lightning attribute body tempering technique and only cultivated the most basic thunder shock art. However, with his special body and sufficient supply of spiritual items, Wang Daoyuan's physical strength was not much weaker than Wang Daoxing's. With just his physical strength, he could defeat ordinary cultivators at the peak of qi refinement. Wang Daoyuan was practicing inscribing second-tier array patterns when he suddenly received a message from the 12th uncle, asking Yun Yi to return to the Cloud Spring Peak and bring some people to Linji Mountain. He released Yun Yi and asked it to go to the Jade Spring Peak as a passenger flying tiger. 4 hours later, Yun Yi carried 4 people back to Linji Mountain. One of them was the 12th uncle, Wang Shui. As soon as he landed on the ground, he said excitedly, "After 3 months of hard work by 4th brother, 7th brother, and I, we finally figured out the formula for the Red Fire Ape's spirit wine. The main ingredient of this spirit wine is a large amount of golden jade peaches, which contain a lot of spiritual energy. The effect of this wine to recover spiritual energy is much stronger than the red blood brew, so we named it Spirit Peach Dew. The Spirit Peach Dew's alcohol strength is relatively low. The alcohol strength of 3 caddies of Spirit Peach Dew is comparable to 1 caddy of red blood brew. I don't really like this kind of wine, but those cultivators who can't hold their liquor should like it." We also found more than 10 kinds of spiritual items in the distiller's grains. Because the amount is relatively small, they should all be the ingredients of the distiller's yeast. The only ingredient used to make the wine is the golden jade peaches. Fortunately, the spiritual items needed for the Spirit Peach Dew distiller's yeast can be found in Linji Mountain. The current wine formula is not perfect. The environment and other conditions needed to make the wine, as well as the amount of each spiritual item in the yeast formula, still need to be tried a few more times. I still have to deal with the clan's affairs and can't stay here for a long time, so I sent Daoheng over to study the yeast formula. Wang Daoheng was ranked 17th in the Dao generation. His cultivation talent was not bad. He was just in his 30s and was already at the 8th level of qi refinement. His fighting strength was not weak, and his personality was also relatively steady. He was the material to take charge of a department. When his cultivation broke through to the peak of qi refinement, he could completely take charge of a department. He had no talent in pills, talismans, or spiritual plants, but he liked to make wine. Moreover, his alcohol tolerance was not bad. Since young, he was regarded as the successor of the 12th uncle and was carefully nurtured. Now, he was the second winemaker in the clan. Chapter 195. The other two people who came with the 12th uncle were the 19th uncle Wang Shouzhong and the 18th uncle Wang Daoping. The 19th uncle Wang Shouzhong's cultivation was average. He was in his 60s and had reached the 8th level of qi refining. He was very low-key and meticulous in his work. He used to manage the cutting of trees in a forest in the north of the family. Now he was a steward of the Mining Mountain Hall. He came here on the orders of the Mining Mountain Hall master to guard the Lingji Mountain and manage the spiritual wood. Although the 19th uncle's talent was average, after the reform of the salary system, he was treated better and had more cultivation resources. In the future, he would have a great chance to break through to the peak of qi refining and become a family elder. The 18th uncle Wang Daoping was a rising talent in the family in recent years. He was a cultivator with 3 spiritual roots. His wood spiritual root was 7 inches and 8 inches. He had reached the 9th level of qi refining at the age of 30. He majored in alchemy and had good talent. He was already a first-rank mid-grade alchemist and was the heir that the 7th uncle focused on training. The two of them came here to help the 5th brother Wang Daozong. One helped manage the spiritual wood, while the other helped manage the spiritual herbs. The second purpose was to fight for the interests of each hall. After the family's power was divided into 9 halls and 2 divisions, there was also competition among the halls. The most obvious was the Medicine Hall and the Mining Mountain Hall. In addition, the family implemented a system of more work, more pay. As long as one worked more, one would get more salary. Each hall was also working hard to improve their performance. These 2 halls had to deal with the spiritual plants hall. The spiritual herbs and spiritual wood needed to occupy the spiritual fields during the growing process. There were only so many spiritual fields in the family, and they had to be planted separately. If more spiritual wood was planted, less spiritual herbs would be planted, and the medicine hall's interests would be damaged. On the other hand, if more spiritual herbs were planted, less spiritual wood would be planted, and the Mining Mountain Hall's interests would be damaged. However, the first elder and the patriarch were suppressing them, and the spiritual plants hall was mediating the relationship. The medicine hall and the Mining Mountain Hall had always been in a state of healthy competition and did not cause damage to the family's interests. On the contrary, the competition between the 2 halls increased the work efficiency. In this way, the patriarch and the elder's attitude toward this matter was to maintain the status quo. The 12th uncle Wang Shui told the 3 of them something and returned to the Jade Spring Peak on his sword. After the 3 of them greeted Wang Daoyuan, they went about their own business. Wang Daoyuan was too lazy to care about these things. As long as it didn't harm the family's interests, they could fight however they wanted. If he were to harm the family's interests for the sake of the hall, then his position as the elder of punishments was not just for show. The 3 of them walked away to do their own work. The 12th uncle had already confirmed the recipe for the spirit peach dew, so they could shovel away the unnecessary spirit plants and open up the spirit fields. Since there were 3 laborers, he naturally had to help. As a foundation establishment cultivator, Wang Daoyuan naturally did not need to do such menial work. He continued to study the second-tier array patterns. His current state was that he had 1 foot in the door to become a Tier 2 array master. After some hard work, he would become a Tier 2 array master. At this moment, he was not in the mood to care about other things. All his energy was focused on inscribing. After a month of hard work, he was finally able to skillfully inscribe Tier 2 formation runes. Next, he would be able to officially set up Tier 2 low-grade formations. The first Tier 2 low-grade formation was naturally the E Wood Withering Formation. There was a ready-made formation disc at Linji Mountain. The formation disc was to shrink the formation eye and inscribe all the formation runes needed for the formation eye onto a Dharma treasure. For simple formations, such as Tier 1 Spirit Gathering Formation, sound insulation formation, etc., one formation disc could complete all the formation runes and formation eyes. If it was a complex formation, there would be more than a dozen formation discs. Formations with multiple formation discs also needed to be inscribed with formation runes to communicate with other formation discs. Other than formation discs, there were also formation flags and other methods of setting up formations. The principles were about the same. Formation flags could also be considered a special kind of formation disc. Because they had to forge formation discs, formation masters usually knew a little about weapon forging. The forging of formation discs did not have high requirements for weapon forging skills. Even formation discs for Tier 2 high-grade formations only required a Tier 1 weapon forger to forge. If one did not use formation discs and directly set up a fixed formation, then there were no requirements for weapon forging. As long as the material used for the formation eye was sturdy enough and its attribute did not clash with the formation, it would be fine. The formation eyes needed to be connected with formation runes. If it was on the stone floor, these formation runes could be carved directly on the stone. Of course, it was best to use spiritual items for the formation eye. If he wanted to set up the wood withering formation, it was best to use spiritual wood for the formation eye. His family was in the spiritual wood business. How could they lack this thing? The formation runes connecting the various formation eyes were carved on the iron quinoa wood. The iron quinoa wood was sturdy and could withstand more spirit power impact. The family had plenty of this stuff. He just had to send a message to the 12th uncle and send Yun, the freight flying tiger, to pull it back. As for the material for the formation eye, it was best to use the golden jade peaches that were native to Linji Mountain. The golden jade peaches grew here and were more suited to the spirit chi of Linji Mountain. Coupled with the fact that the material was very sturdy, it was perfect to create the formation eye. During this period of time, fifth brother Wang Daozong had been pruning the peach trees. Many branches had been cut off from the largest peach tree. Many of the branches of the large peach tree had reached the level of Tier 2 low-grade spiritual wood and could be used as the formation eye. Controlling his flying sword, he chopped off a piece of peach wood that was more than a foot long and as thick as a bowl and slowly inscribed formation runes on it. Compared to elixirs, talismans, and weapons, setting up a formation was a huge project. The time required was much longer than refining elixirs and talismans. It was common to take months to set up a large-scale formation. However, there was also an advantage to setting up a formation. It had a high tolerance for mistakes. If there was a mistake, there was still a chance to remedy it. It was unlike refining elixirs and talismans where a mistake would cause the entire formation to be scrapped. When inscribing the formation runes, if there was a mistake, he could just cut it off and reinscribe it. If he failed many times, he would only lose a piece of formation eye material at most. The wood withering formation had a total of 10 formation eyes. Wang Daoyuan used more than 30 pieces of materials to complete the inscription. After that, it was time to inscribe the connecting formation runes on the iron quinoa wood. This was very easy. Although the workload was more than the formation eye, there were fewer changes in the connecting formation runes and the difficulty was low. Since it was his first time setting up such a large-scale formation, he was more cautious. He paid attention to the details and took more than a month to finish inscribing all the formation runes. The task of connecting the formation eyes was relatively simple. He just had to place the formation eyes according to the predetermined positions and use the connecting formation runes to connect the various formation eyes. At this moment, he just had to place spirit stones in each formation eye to activate the formation. However, such a formation consumed too many spirit stones. There were 2 spirit veins on Linji Mountain, so he naturally had to make use of them. The formation runes used to connect the spirit veins were similar to the connecting formation runes between the formation eyes. Furthermore, they were even simpler. He had already inscribed them with the iron quinoa wood. He just had to dig the spirit veins underground and place the iron quinoa wood that was inscribed with the connecting formation runes to connect the spirit veins to the formation eyes. After setting up everything, Wang Daoyuan came to the core formation eye and used his spiritual sense to activate the formation runes. Spiritual chi flowed from the spirit veins underground through the connecting formation runes and entered the formation eyes. Spiritual chi flowed between the various formation eyes. In just a few breaths of time, the entire formation was activated. If one looked at it from afar, the entire Lingji mountain was shrouded in a faintly discernible green fog. The formation covered a range of 300 meters away from the Lingji mountain. Even the sawtooth vine wall that he had set up earlier was covered by the formation. He tried to activate the formation and use the entanglement technique. The sawtooth vine wall grew rapidly. Without using any spirit energy, the sawtooth vine wall grew 3 meters tall. The E-wood withering formation was successfully set up. Chapter 196. Knowing that Wang Daoyuan had successfully set up a rank 2 formation and that the clan had its own rank 2 formation master, Wang Shui, as the clan leader, naturally had to run over to take a look. Riding his sword, he arrived at Lingji Mountain. Before entering the mountain, he could already see a faintly discernible green spirit qi enveloping the entire mountain. He didn't say anything in advance and directly rushed into the formation. When the formation was in an active state, it naturally reacted when someone entered. Wang Daoyuan immediately used the core of the formation to urge the sawtooth vines to attack the enemy. The sawtooth vines were quite easy to deal with targets that couldn't fly, but it was somewhat powerless to deal with enemies that could fly. No matter how powerful the formation was, it couldn't make a large number of sawtooth vines grow hundreds of feet in an instant. Attacking enemies in the air could only focus on growing a few sawtooth vines. But for foundation establishment cultivators, a few sawtooth vines were nothing and could be easily cut off. Plants suitable for the entanglement technique were very rare, and he only had the sawtooth vines. The sawtooth vines were only rank 1 upper-grade spiritual plants and were simply not strong enough to deal with foundation establishment cultivators. The entanglement technique was unreliable, so he could only use other wood attribute spells. For a time, common wood attribute spells such as wood thorn technique, wood sword technique, and arrow rain technique suddenly appeared from everywhere and attacked the intruder. The intruder's strength was extraordinary, and a lot of spells couldn't take him down. However, the spells appeared without any pattern, and the intruder couldn't go any further. After a stalemate for an hour, the intruder retreated. Then, the 12th uncle Wang Shui's voice came, "Daoyuan, it's me, I'm here to see if your formation is powerful." Wang Daoyuan had long discovered that it was the 12th uncle who came, but he wanted to test the formation, and he also happened to test the formation's power. Now that the 12th uncle had admitted defeat, he immediately stopped attacking. Wang Shui went up the mountain and smiled, "Daoyuan, this formation is indeed powerful, it can actually beat me to the point that I don't dare to enter. Ordinary rank 2 low-grade demonic beasts don't have much hope of coming out alive after entering the formation. Even rank 2 mid-grade demonic beasts can't do much. It's just that this sawtooth vine is too weak. If we could have a type of second-level vine, I'm afraid that even a second-level high-grade demonic beast would not be able to take advantage of it." Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, "A low-grade tier 2 array formation can only be so." This Chilantou mountain was a rank 2 inferior spirit vein. Demonic beasts of a higher rank would not be interested in this place. Being able to take down a second-level low-grade demonic beast and intimidate a second-level mid-grade demonic beast was enough. As for rank 2 vines, it's not that easy to find. I stayed in Oasis for over 20 years and only found this sawtooth vine. The dragon crouching vine used to refine the foundation establishment pill was also a vine. However, it couldn't grow quickly even if he used would attribute spiritual power, so it wasn't suitable for the entanglement technique. Wang Shi smiled and said, "You don't, but I do." Wang Daoyuan was overjoyed and asked, "You really have a rank 2 vine? With your personality, if you had such a good thing, you would have already exchanged it for wine. Why would you keep it?" Wang Shi pretended to be angry and said, "Do you look down on me that much? Before I reached foundation establishment, I wandered the world for over 30 years. How could I not have any gains? This vine of mine is not ordinary. It's one of the strongest rank 2 vines. Our Wang clan doesn't have any wood attribute cultivators who specialize in battle, so I've always kept it. Moreover, if I sell it, it will most likely fall into the hands of the Liang clan. Wouldn't that make me an enemy? After he finished speaking, he took out a dozen dark red seeds from his storage pouch. The seeds were covered in thorns. Wang Daoyuan took the seeds and examined them. He said, "This seems to be the seed of the bloodthirsty vine. It can be said to be the nemesis of rank 2 demonic beasts. This is a rare item." Wang Shui smiled and said, "It is indeed the seed of the bloodthirsty vine. I specialize in the water attribute and have no use for it. I'll give it to you." The bloodthirsty vine was a rank 2 inferior spirit plant. Its strength could only be considered above average among vines of the same rank. However, it had the habit of sucking blood and could sense the smell of blood. Once it came into contact with an injured demonic beast or cultivator, it would take the initiative to attack. The more blood it sucked, the stronger its vines would become. As long as it sucked enough blood, it could even take down a rank 2 superior spirit beast. Moreover, the bloodthirsty vine was poisonous. It could make humans and demonic beasts feel numb and their blood boil, making it easier for it to suck blood. The bloodthirsty vine was picky about its food. It was only interested in the blood of rank 2 demonic beasts or cultivators of the foundation establishment stage. It was not interested in the blood of rank 1 demonic beasts or cultivators of the qi refining stage. It was too lazy to take the initiative to attack, let alone ordinary people. This characteristic was very suitable for use around the transit station. It could be used to guard against demonic beasts and would not be a threat to the cultivators of the qi refining stage. Wang Daoyuan kept the 3 bloodthirsty vine seeds and threw the other seeds into the sawtooth vine wall. Using the entanglement technique, the dark red vines grew rapidly. In a few breaths' time, the vines had grown to 20 feet long. There were not many seeds. If he could not quickly form the wall and force the vines to bloom and form seeds, the seeds might not be able to germinate. He could only wait for the vines to bloom and form seeds before continuing to use the entanglement technique. Developing Linji Mountain was not something that could be done overnight. There was no need to rush. Seeing that he had finished arranging the bloodthirsty vine, Wang Shui took out a spirit beast pouch and asked, "Daoyuan, do you need spirit bees?" When a few disciples of the clan were traveling outside, they found a nest of wild spirit-seeking bees. They did not have the ability to take them down, so they reported it to the clan. I personally went to wipe out the entire nest. Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, "There is no need for that. I have a type of spirit bee that is somewhat related to the Thousand Spirit sect. I do not dare to use it in front of others. It is better to keep these spirit-seeking bees for the clan to produce spirit honey. I have a method for the queen bee to recognize a master." After saying that, Wang Daoyuan handed a jade slip that recorded the method for the spirit bee to recognize a master to the 12th uncle. Although the spirit-seeking bees produced spirit honey of higher quality, no matter how good the grade 1 spirit honey was, it was not of much use to Wang Daoyuan. Currently, the only thing that was useful to him was the royal jelly. He used the spirit-chasing bees mainly to scout and search for treasures. In these two aspects, the spirit-chasing bees were much stronger than the spirit-seeking bees. The honey source in the space was limited. It was too wasteful to raise a group of useless spirit-seeking bees. With the spirit-chasing bees' domineering temperament, the spirit-seeking bees would be exterminated if they dared to snatch the honey source. Wang Shui took the jade slip and said, "Fine, then I will raise these spirit-seeking bees at the Jade Spring Peak. I have also delivered the vampiric vine to you. If there is nothing else, I will return to the Jade Spring Peak." After saying that, he left the Linji Mountain on his sword. Wang Daoyuan threw the remaining 3 vampiric vine seeds into the space of the spirit pearl and planted them in the white jade spiritual mulberry forest. The flow of time in the space of the spirit pearl was 40 times faster. Soon, he would be able to harvest a large number of seeds. The entanglement technique could also become one of his trump cards, especially when dealing with beast hordes. After successfully setting up the E-wood withering formation and having the vampiric vine, the safety of the Linji Mountain was already guaranteed. When the spirit fields here were opened up, he could move some ordinary clansmen over to settle down. Not all of the land on the mountain was suitable for spirit fields. The areas that were not suitable for spirit fields could be planted by ordinary clansmen. The flat land at the foot of the mountain could also be turned into farmland by ordinary clansmen. It would not be difficult to settle 1,000 or 2,000 mortals within the range of the formation. Chapter 197. In order to cooperate with the development of Linji Mountain, the clan established the General Affairs Division in advance, which was temporarily managed by the First Elder. They were responsible for the task of migrating the clansmen to Linji Mountain. The General Affairs Division naturally had to send someone to arrange the migration of the ordinary clansmen. The person who came was 16th Uncle Wang Shoutai. He was at the 7th level of Qi refinement and was in charge of the General Affairs Division. His cultivation talent was average and he didn't have any special skills. He was diligent in his work and had never made any contributions or mistakes. In the clan, there were many clansmen like 16th Uncle. In the past, they were usually in charge of some of the clan's less important businesses. With a meager monthly allowance, they could marry a few wives and concubines. If they were lucky, they could even have cultivator descendants. After the clan's reform, such clansmen were arranged to be in positions that didn't require strong personal ability, but needed to be sincere and steady. For example, the General Affairs Division only needed to follow the plans set by the elders and work step by step. There were people taking care of all aspects of Linji Mountain, so Wang Daoyuan didn't need to worry at all. What he needed to do was to repel the demon beasts that came to cause trouble. In fact, he didn't need to care about this matter. In order to complete its winemaking mission as soon as possible, the Thunder Ape ran to the surrounding spirit veins to search for the ingredients needed for winemaking. The key was that the other spirit veins were also occupied by demon beasts. Would the other demon beasts be happy if the Thunder Ape ran to other spirit veins? Every time the Thunder Ape went to a spirit vein, it would beat up the demon beasts that occupied it and then plunder the spiritual items. Rank 1 demon beasts weren't spared either. Wang Daoxing and Wang Daoyin used the nearby rank 1 demon beasts to practice. The demon beasts within 300 miles of Linji Mountain were as obedient as their grandchildren. Not to mention that Linji Mountain was looking for trouble, they were already secretly happy that the people of Linji Mountain didn't find trouble with them. Before subduing the Thunder Ape, Yun-Yi was the one who caused the most trouble. Now that she had the Thunder Ape, Yun-Yi knew that she couldn't beat it, so she obediently did the transportation work. At the same time, she earned some rations. She needed 20 kilograms of roasted meat for every 1,000 miles. It grew up eating roasted meat and didn't like eating raw meat. It also had high requirements for the taste of roasted meat. Since he didn't need to care about anything, Wang Daoyuan focused his energy on improving his cultivation. After spending more than 3 years in Linji Mountain, his cultivation had reached the 2nd level of foundation establishment, and he was not far from the 3rd level. For most foundation establishment cultivators, even if they didn't consider minor bottlenecks, it would still take them 7 to 8 years to break through one level of cultivation. As a Penta Spirit Veins cultivator, it was not easy for him to have such a cultivation speed, even if he used a lot of resources. Over the past 3 years, he had mainly focused on cultivation, and his talisman crafting and array formation skills had also improved. He had already become a level 2 spirit talisman master and a level 2 array master. In terms of alchemy, the 2nd generation blood jade ginseng had matured, and there were still 2 true essence fruits left. 2 cauldrons of foundation establishment pills produced 10 pills. The success rate had reached 50%. It had already reached the level of being able to refine Tier 3 medicinal pills. However, the Wang clan did not have the inheritance of a Tier 3 alchemist, and he did not have any Tier 3 spirit herbs, so he naturally could not refine them. In 3 years, more than 80 mu of spiritual fields had been opened up on Linji Mountain. The spiritual fields owned by the clan had almost doubled. There were also more than a dozen households, a total of more than 100 ordinary clansmen, who had settled down here. They had opened up more than 300 mu of ordinary farmland on the northern mountain of Linji Plains. His 17th brother, Wang Daoheng, was still studying the spirit peach juice distiller's yeast. Because there was no golden jade peach, he couldn't be sure if the distiller's yeast recipe was correct. The Thunder Ape's mission to brew wine was still incomplete. It used to live in the depths of the sky/mountain range, where the variety of spiritual plants was much richer than outside. Many of the spiritual plants used to brew its wine could not be found outside. Wang Daoyuan had spent 3 years of leisure on Linji Mountain. His leisure days had come to an end. The Netherworld Sex Foundation establishment pill auction, which was fixed once every 60 years, was about to begin. To show that they no longer had any foundation establishment pills, the Wang family had to bid for one and then give it to Wang Daoxing. In order to show that they were taking it seriously, the Wang family had to send at least 2 or 3 foundation establishment cultivators. Great-grandfather and 5th great-uncle did not care about family affairs. 8th uncle, 9th aunt, and 2nd brother had reached foundation establishment relatively late. They were still at the first level of foundation establishment, so they were not intimidating. It would be best if he went with the 12th uncle. Also, Wang Daoxing had to be present. Wang Daoyuan had to bring Wang Daoxing and Yunyi away from Linji Mountain. With the Thunder Ape guarding this place, it was not a big problem. To be safe, he handed the E-wood withering flourishing array to 5th brother Wang Shi to guard. He also left a few superior grade level 2 spiritual talismans for 5th brother and Dao Yin. Without him around, the Thunder Ape would not listen to anyone. If the Thunder Ape went out to play and there were demonic beasts eyeing Linji Mountain, having a few superior grade level 2 spiritual talismans would be an extra layer of insurance. After settling the affairs of Linji Mountain, Wang Daoyuan and Wang Daoxing rode Yunyi back to Jade Spring Peak. After leaving Linji Mountain for less than 5 minutes, Yunyi flew to Black Rock Peak. Black Rock Peak was about 3,000 feet tall. It was directly east of Jade Spring Peak and was only 20 to 30 miles away from the edge of the sky/mountain range. There was a small middle-grade level 1 spiritual vein on the peak. The entire mountain was covered in black rocks and there were very few trees. There was no suitable place to open up spiritual fields, only suitable for quarrying. It was also too close to the edge of the sky/mountain range and was often harassed by demonic beasts. It was very difficult to develop, so it had always been empty here. Yunyi flew over Black Rock Peak. The peak of Black Rock Peak was only 60 feet away from Yunyi. Just as she flew to Black Rock Peak, a black sword beam flew out from Black Rock Peak. Wang Daoyuan wanted to develop Black Rock Peak, so he had been using his divine sense to scan the entire mountain. The person who launched the sneak attack was good at hiding. His divine sense was also scanning the entire mountain, so he did not discover the person who launched the sneak attack in advance. However, when the person was about to attack, there was an obvious fluctuation of spiritual power, which was immediately detected by him. Wang Daoyuan could be considered a veteran. Under such circumstances, it was simply too late to instruct Yunyi to dodge. He could only take this attack head-on. He instantly took out 2 superior grade level 2 earth armor talismans that he carried with him and stuck them on Yunyi. The enemy was unprepared. It was already too late for him to use a powerful spell. He could only use the golden saber technique to attack the black sword beam. Soon, the black sword beam collided with the golden saber technique. The golden saber technique was directly broken without even a sound. After the black sword beam broke the golden saber technique, it attacked Yunyi's abdomen. Fortunately, there were 2 layers of superior grade level 2 earth armor talismans protecting her. The black sword beam only dimmed the first layer of earth armor. Yunyi cried out in pain. It was not a big deal. Wang Daoyuan urged Yunyi to fly forward quickly, further away from Black Rock Peak. Only when they were more than 300 feet away from Black Rock Peak did he let Yunyi stop. The person who launched the sneak attack could not break the superior grade level 2 earth armor talisman. He should only be a middle stage foundation establishment cultivator. This place was only about 100 miles away from Linji Mountain. With such a person who was good at sneak attacks, the safety of Linji Mountain was not guaranteed. He had to find a way to get rid of this person. Taking out the shocking wind sword, he left Yun Yi's back and flew into the air. He ordered Yun Yi to fly 10,000 feet high and return to Jade Spring Peak with Wang Daoxing. There were no tall mountains nearby. Flying high in the sky, he was not afraid of being attacked. With Yun Yi's speed, flying at full speed, a late-stage Foundation establishment cultivator would not be able to catch up. As long as it was not a sneak attack, even if there were assassins chasing after it, they would not be able to do anything to it. He also told Wang Daoxing, "No need to get anyone to save me. The other party's strength is not enough to take me down." After Yun Yi flew far away with Wang Daoxing, he shouted towards the top of Black Rock Peak, "Sneaky scoundrel. His cultivation is clearly above mine, but he only dares to launch sneak attacks and does not dare to fight me head-on. Could it be another one of Blood Shadow's bugs?" Hearing this, a trace of spiritual energy fluctuation appeared in the pile of rocks below. A voice sounded, "You know Blood Shadow?" Chapter 198. Wang Daoyuan replied, "I've dealt with them a few times and they're all the same as you. They're clearly so much stronger than me, but they don't dare to fight me head-on. Who else could it be other than Blood Shadow?" The ambusher said, "You're not Blood Shadow's employer and you know about them. You're dead for sure." A man in black flew out from Black Rock Peak on his sword. He was wearing a long black cloak. He even wore a hat on top of the cloak that covered his face. Even the flying sword under his feet was black. His cloak could even block out divine sense. No wonder he couldn't find him when he was scouting Black Rock Peak earlier. With this outfit, it was really not easy to find him hiding on Black Rock Peak that was filled with black rocks. Wang Daoyuan used the heaven-peering technique to check on this man in black and found that he was at Foundation Establishment Level 5. Although Blood Shadow's people were all top-notch in ambushes and their ability to fight head-on was like child's play. But the opponent was a mid-stage Foundation Establishment cultivator after all. He couldn't let his guard down. The man in black flew towards him on his sword. He first used 2 superior grade 2 earth armor talismans on himself and then took out the 5 dragon soul-chasing whip. When the man in black was close enough, he lashed out with the whip. The man in black controlled the flying sword under his feet and released a black sword light. The force from Wang Daoyuan's whip collided with the black sword light and both dissipated. Wang Daoyuan struck out 3 times in a row, frightening the black-clothed man. He couldn't block such a fast attack. The man in black hurriedly dodged the force and turned to fly towards Black Rock Peak. The man in black's sword was not as fast as his wind shock sword. As expected, Blood Shadow's people were still as weak in head-on fights as before. The man in black fled to Black Rock Peak and used the huge rocks to hide. Wang Daoyuan's 5 dragon soul-chasing whip really couldn't do anything to him. With 2 layers of earth armor on him, the man in black couldn't kill him in one blow. He could take his time to play with him. He caught a peak chi refinement cultivator alive earlier, but he knew too little. This mid-stage Foundation Establishment assassin had some status in Blood Shadow and should be able to get some secret information. If he could capture him alive, he would try his best to capture him alive and refine him into a clone to spy on Blood Shadow. After Wang Daoyuan entered the Foundation Establishment realm, his chi-refining doppelgangers were no longer of much use in strengthening his spiritual sense and cultivation base. Sooner or later, he would have to replace them with Foundation Establishment doppelgangers. A middle-stage Foundation Establishment clone had a strong enough effect in nurturing a divided soul. Wang Daoyuan landed on the Black Rock Peak and used the heaven-peering technique to search for the location of the black-clothed man. It had to be said that the black-robed man's attire was really good at blocking divine sense. Under the situation where he didn't cast any spells, Wang Daoyuan could only detect him when he was more than 30 meters away from him when he used the heaven-peering technique. For a Foundation Establishment cultivator, a distance of over 10 zhang was nothing. Every time Wang Daoyuan detected him, he would sneak up on him with a sword beam and then quickly flee. His escape speed was especially fast. While Wang Daoyuan was receiving and dodging, he could use the rocks to cover himself. Without using spiritual power, he could quickly escape from Wang Daoyuan's divine sense detection range. Wang Daoyuan released the soul-chasing bees to search for the black-clothed man. However, this person seemed to have an extremely brilliant qi-concealing technique. Even the soul-chasing bees couldn't detect him. At that time, his interest was piqued. As long as he refined this black-clothed man into a clone, all the good things would be his. The stronger the enemy, the more excited he was. Of course, the premise was that he could kill the enemy. He liked the people of Blood Shadow more and more now. Other than sneak attacks, they didn't have anything else to show. This was putting the cart before the horse. They always wanted to play all kinds of tricks, hoping to achieve the goal of defeating the enemy in one blow, but neglected the ability to face the enemy head-on. Little did they know that strength was the absolute truth. Strength to meet force with force was the absolute truth. This group of people relied too much on sneak attacks, just like how he relied too much on talismans in the past. In the end, when he met Zhao Baogua, he was beaten to the point that he couldn't even take out a talisman and had to rely on the cloud escape to save his life. If this black-clothed man used martial arts to increase his strength, he might not be his match, let alone force him to not dare to show his face. He released the golden wings and observed with his naked eye in the sky. He didn't withdraw the soul-chasing bees, but released another 5,000 soul-chasing bees. There was no perfect hiding in the world. This black-clothed man had already done a good job, but there were still flaws. As long as he used spiritual power, he couldn't hide from his divine sense. The black-clothed man's outfit perfectly blended with the black rocks of Black Rock Peak. It was extremely difficult to discover with the naked eye. If he didn't move, the golden wings couldn't find him. However, as long as he dared to move, he definitely couldn't hide from the golden wings' eyes. Even if he didn't move, with more than 5,000 soul-chasing bees slowly searching, how could they not find him? The soul-chasing bees quickly surrounded the entire mountain, carefully searching every inch of it. Wang Daoyuan also used the Golden Rock Wrestling Dragon technique. The Golden Rock Phantom flew in the air. As long as it found the black-clothed man's trace, it would directly use its feather blade to attack. The flying speed of the feather blade was faster than the force of the long whip, and it could shoot out multiple feather blades at the same time. The only drawback was that the attack range wasn't far. The effective killing range was only 70 to 80 feet, which was less than 100 feet of the long whip force. After 30 breaths, suddenly, an earth attribute spiritual power fluctuation appeared 50 feet behind him. He controlled the Golden Rock Phantom and flew towards the place where the spiritual power fluctuation came from. He also sent out 2 feather blades. The black-clothed man's cultivation technique should be of the metal attribute. There was no trace of earth attribute spiritual power in the sword light he sent out. At this time, the sudden appearance of earth attribute spiritual power fluctuation was very likely to be due to the use of earth attribute talismans, such as the Earth Escape Talisman. Wang Daoyuan used the earth-shaking technique, and a shock wave spread to the entire mountain with him as the center. There was only a scream, and the earth attribute spiritual power fluctuation instantly disappeared. Sure enough, he was using the Earth Escape Talisman. The earth-shaking technique he obtained from Zhang Deshang was especially effective against Earth Escape. He immediately used the Cloud Escape technique and rushed to the place where the scream came from. There was a pile of ash on the ground. It should have been left behind when the Earth Escape Talisman was destroyed. There were also a few drops of blood on the ground. It should have been caused by the feather blades. Since the black-clothed man was injured, it would be easy to deal with him. He took out 20 vampiric vine seeds and used the entanglement technique. In a dozen breaths' time, the vampiric vine had grown to 20 feet long. He didn't use his divine sense to guide the attack. Instead, he used his wood attribute spiritual power to let the vampiric vine find its target. After being injured, the black-clothed man immediately tried to dodge, but he didn't dare to use his spiritual power. He could only rely on his legs to dodge, and he also had to use the rocks to block the golden rock's vision. He couldn't run far. The vampiric vine quickly followed the path he took. After a few breaths' time, he saw a black-clothed man jump out from a crack in the rocks. The black-clothed man sent out several sword lights, cutting down many vampiric vine. After the vampiric vines were cut down, it quickly grew more branches and continued to attack the black-clothed man. The golden rock didn't stay idle either. It continuously attacked the black-clothed man with its feather blades. At this moment, the black-clothed man already had more than 10 wounds on his body. The black-clothed man wanted to use his sword to escape, but the golden rock wing descended from the sky and aimed at his neck. The golden rock wing's innate skill was called wing slash. Once it was used, its wings would become as sharp as blades. Coupled with its extremely fast flying speed, it was easy to kill a Foundation establishment cultivator who used sword kinesis flight. If the black-clothed man's neck was hit by the wing slash, his head would definitely fall to the ground. Helpless, he gave up on using his sword to escape and landed on the ground. How could the vampiric vine let go of this heaven-sent opportunity? Dozens of vines immediately wrapped around the assassin. Soon after, the soul-chasing bees swarmed over and surrounded the assassin. Chapter 199. Although the black-robed man no longer had any hope of escaping, he didn't give up. At this moment, he was surrounded by layers of vampiric vines and soul-chasing bees. However, he was still able to form a spiritual energy barrier to resist the attacks. This was a battle of attrition. Wang Daoyuan simultaneously infused more than 20 vampiric vines with his spiritual energy. The vampiric vines that had been cut down even grew more branches. In addition, he was also maintaining the golden rock's image. If this continued, he might not be able to outlast this 5th-level Foundation establishment assassin. Wang Daoyuan didn't have any reason to waste time with him. Since he had the resources, he would use them to his advantage. He took out 3 jugs of 50-year-old scarlet blood wine from the space within his spiritual pearl and drank a few mouthfuls. In less than 40 breaths of time, his spiritual energy, which had been less than half, had recovered to 90%. He burped and sighed, "I've used up too much of my spiritual energy recently. I only have 200 or 300 jugs of this wine left. Luckily, I still have 500 jugs of better quality." The black-robed man's cloak had long been torn apart, revealing his face. Originally, his eyes were shining with hope. However, after Wang Daoyuan drank a few mouthfuls of wine, the flames of hope in his heart gradually extinguished. When Wang Daoyuan said that he still had a few hundred jugs left, he completely despaired. After holding on for 100 breaths of time, the assassin's lifeless face suddenly turned sinister. Wang Daoyuan immediately became vigilant. "This brat wants to fight me to the death." He stuck 2 layers of earth armor talismans on himself and infused a large amount of spiritual energy into the turtle dragon armor. A 5th-level Foundation establishment cultivator's final attack had to be taken seriously. The assassin's spiritual energy barrier fluctuated violently. Soon after, the barrier exploded, and the soul-chasing bees were sent flying by the shockwaves. It was unknown whether they were dead or alive. More than 5,000 soul-chasing bees would take more than 10 days to recover. These ordinary soul-chasing bees were only of the 1st grade and couldn't withstand the shockwaves of the explosion. However, the vampiric vines didn't care. Without the obstruction of the barrier, they directly wrapped around the assassin's body. The thorns on the vines had already pierced through his skin. The assassin felt that he had lost all feeling in his hands and feet, and even the circulation of his spirit energy had slowed down. Wang Daoyuan originally thought that this was the end, but he didn't expect that the assassin's flying sword, carrying intense spirit energy fluctuations, would drill through the gaps between the vines and fly towards him. Back then, when he was fighting with Zhao Baogua, he was careless and did not dodge. He was almost sent away by 5 consecutive whips. Since then, whenever he fought with others, he would always remain vigilant until his opponent was completely dead. This time was no exception. His divine sense was locked onto his opponent from beginning to end. The moment the flying sword flew out, he immediately used the cloud mist escape and dodged to the side, flashing 300 feet away. Then, he controlled the golden rock's phantom to continuously use its feather blades to attack the flying swords. After he dodged, the flying sword turned around and continued to chase after him. Under the attack of the feather blade, the flying sword was on the verge of collapse. The assassin was already powerless from the bloodthirsty vine's poison, unable to circulate his spiritual energy. Losing too much blood made it hard for him to stay conscious, and his soul consciousness was getting weaker and weaker. Once he fainted, the flying sword would completely lose control. At this moment, the flying sword was still more than 30 feet away from Wang Daoyuan when it suddenly shone brightly. Wang Daoyuan once again used the cloud mist escape and dodged in the direction the flying sword was pointing at. The light on the flying sword condensed into a giant sword phantom that was more than 30 feet long and 3 feet wide. It slashed down in the direction Wang Daoyuan had previously been. This seemed to be a sword cultivator's move, but this assassin could not possibly be a sword cultivator. Sword cultivators were famous for being one-track minded. They were particular about breaking all techniques with a single sword and disdained to play tricks and schemes. No matter how talented those bastards from Blood's Shadow were, they would not be able to achieve anything by walking the path of a sword cultivator. He reckoned that this assassin must have obtained an incomplete sword cultivator legacy somewhere and practiced this move. Wang Daoyuan had already used the cloud mist escape to dodge. He would not be injured in the slightest by this sword strike. However, this was a rare opportunity to experience the strength of a sword cultivator. How could he miss it? He controlled the golden rock's phantom to fly in the direction of the giant sword phantom. He aimed at the giant sword phantom and released all of his feathered blades. After blocking more than 100 feathered blades, the giant sword was shattered. The remaining feathered blades all missed. The power was unexpectedly weak, but looking at the appearance of the giant sword phantom, it should have destroyed all of the feathered blades before perishing together with the golden rock's phantom. He did not expect that it would be over just like that. It seemed that this move had consumed a lot of energy. Otherwise, he would not have waited until he was at the brink of death. This move was a little useless. Its speed was too slow, and the probability of hitting someone was not high. The assassin had already fainted due to excessive blood loss. Wang Daoyuan withdrew the golden rock's phantom and kept all of the soul-chasing bees back into the spiritual pearl. He used his divine sense to stop the vampiric vine's attack and stuck a second-grade soul-subduing talisman on the assassin. Then, he threw both the assassin and the vampiric vine into the spiritual pearl. After cleaning up the traces on Black Boulder Peak, he flew back to Jade Spring Peak. After greeting the Great Elder, he returned to the cave and prepared to refine the assassin into a clone. After all, the assassin was at the 5th level of the Foundation Establishment realm. His divine sense cultivation might be higher than his. If he rashly used the soul-splitting blade, he might hurt himself instead. It would be safer to use the soul-extinguishing bell to shake his soul half to death first before using the soul-splitting blade. Before that, he should first cut out a part of his soul and nourish it. He cut out about 7% of his soul. A Foundation Establishment clone's original soul was stronger and could accommodate more parts of his soul. The more divided souls he could sever, the more his avatar could nurture the divided souls. In the future, when he took back the divided souls, his divine sense cultivation would improve even more. However, the damage to his soul would also be greater. Wang Daoyuan used more than 10 days to stabilize the injuries to his soul. After the soul was nourished, he used the earth wall technique to create 2 hemispherical covers to cover himself. He took out the assassin from the spiritual pearl and used the soul-extinguishing bell to injure his soul. With the 2 covers, the clansmen outside would not be hurt by the soul-extinguishing bell. The outside world could only hear a weak bell sound. Only a few Foundation Establishment realm cultivators could hear that the bell sound was not simple. The Qi Refinement realm cultivators did not feel anything. At this time, the assassin was already foaming at the mouth from the shock. He immediately used the soul-splitting blade to break into the assassin's sea of consciousness and disperse his soul. Then, the part of his soul entered the assassin's sea of consciousness and used the power of the soul-splitting blade to reform his soul. After finishing, he felt that something was wrong, but he could not tell what the problem was. A day later, the part of his soul in the space had completely controlled the clone. At this time, Wang Daoyuan realized where the problem was. All the clones began to have a trace of self-awareness. The previous clones were like another him and were completely connected to the main body. But now, the clones had their own thoughts and gave him a strange feeling. They could not be completely connected. Even if this bit of self-awareness was insignificant, it was still a hidden danger. If the self-awareness grew stronger, the clone would want to rebel and destroy the part of his soul. Then, he would be finished. He could not determine the reason why the clones had developed self-awareness. In order to reduce the risk of the clones causing trouble, he first gave up on the clones that had no value. Now that he had 4 Qi refinement clones, Qi Yun's remaining value had not been squeezed dry. Zhao Baoguo's cultivation method was similar to his, so he could be used as a test subject to improve his spells in the future. Liang Zixing could still refine rank 1 pills. Only Shadow Fox was useless. After directly taking back the part of the soul in Shadow Fox's sea of consciousness and merging it with the main soul, Wang Daoyuan discovered that the remaining 4 clones had lost their self-awareness. At this time, the total amount of the part of the soul in all the clones was 1/10 of his complete soul, compared to 11% before. He tried to separate 1/1000th of his soul and merge it with Shadow Fox's sea of consciousness again. The clones once again developed self-awareness, but it was much weaker than before. This seemed to be a problem with the cultivation method. When the total amount of the part of the soul exceeded 1/10 of the complete soul, the clone would develop self-awareness. Chapter 200. If there were too many divided souls, it would cause the clone to lose control. If he wanted to have more clones, he would need to divide each divided soul into smaller parts. However, if there were too few divided souls, the clone's thinking ability would also be limited. After the divided soul, which accounted for 1% of the complete main soul, merged into the clone would not be much different from a normal person. It could cultivate and practice the various arts of cultivation. If the divided soul was less than 1%, the clone's intelligence would plummet. There was no need to think about cultivation. No wonder the 10,000 corpse spiritual master chose to go down the path of refining corpses. Refining corpses only needed to be obedient and did not require too much intelligence. The requirements for the divided soul were much lower, and it could control more refined corpses at the same time. To Wang Daoyuan, the clone's greatest use was to help look after the spiritual pearl's space and improve his divine sense cultivation. It was not worth risking losing the divided soul to let the clone fight. After the divided soul took control of the clone, it began to pry into its memories. From the memories of the assassin's clone, it learned that the assassin's name was Wu Yi. He was originally an itinerant cultivator in the northern part of Mount Huiyan. By chance, he became an outer member of the Blood Shadow Mountain's northern division. Wu Yi's talent was not bad. Relying on the resources he obtained as an assassin, his cultivation quickly reached the peak of Qi refinement. After that, he succeeded in building his foundation without the help of a foundation establishment pill. The Blood Shadow Mountain's northern division took him in as an inner member. Therefore, Wu Yi knew more about Blood Shadow than Shadow Fox. Blood Shadow was an underground organization that covered the entire Beiyuan Shoshin. It was said that it had existed long before the various countries fought for hegemony. It was a force that had existed for at least 10,000 years. Blood Shadow had always been in the business of killing people for rewards. In order to keep it a secret, they did not have any external communication organizations. They also never accepted other people's initiative to hire them. Instead, they took the initiative to find employers. Blood Shadow relied on the intelligence network that covered the entire cultivation world to find people who needed Blood Shadow's help and slowly sound them out. If the other party had no intention of hiring someone to kill, then they would not contact them. If the other party was interested, then they would reveal some of Blood Shadow's strength. Moreover, the employer was required not to reveal Blood Shadow to anyone. If the information about Blood Shadow was leaked, the person who leaked it and the insider would be hunted down by Blood Shadow. Blood Shadow's headquarters had an organization called Blood Wolves that was responsible for getting rid of leakers. Unlike the ordinary blood shadow assassins who were extremely weak in head-on fights of magical powers, the blood wolves were all extremely good at fights of magical powers. Killing cultivators of the same level was a piece of cake. Blood shadow was able to exist for such a long time by relying on such a strict method of secrecy. However, it did not have much of a reputation outside. The reason why Wu Yi acted this time was also because someone wanted to kill the people of the Wang family. The price offered by the employer was very high. He wanted 50,000 spirit stones to get rid of Wang Shui and 20,000 spirit stones to get rid of Wang Daoyuan. This mission was originally given to the Qingli branch. Unfortunately, none of the Qingli branch's foundation establishment assassins dared to accept it. The employer wanted to use 50,000 spirit stones to hire the number 1 assassin of the Shanbei division, Yu Lang. Yu Lang was already at the peak of the foundation establishment stage and had been preparing to open his Violet Palace all these years. At the Blood Shadow Sect's headquarters, he could exchange it for the Yimyang Purple Jade. However, Quiet Wolf did not have enough spirit stones. Logically speaking, 50,000 spirit stones was a very high price to pay for a third-level foundation establishment cultivator. However, Yu Lang had some understanding of the Wang family. No one in the Qingli branch dared to make a move. Naturally, he would want more of such business. He wanted 150,000 spirit stones before he was willing to act. The employer was only willing to pay 70,000 spirit stones at most. Although Yu Lang was unwilling to act, Wu Yi was tempted. However, he did not have the guts to touch Wang Shui. From the intelligence, he knew that Wang Daoyuan was a cultivator who had just entered the foundation establishment stage. He was only at the 5th level of the foundation establishment stage. Wouldn't it be easy for him to kill someone who had just entered the foundation establishment stage? These 20,000 spirit stones were picked up for free. He accepted the mission and found out that Wang Daoyuan was at Linji Mountain. When he arrived at Linji Mountain, he saw the array, vine walls and fierce demonic beasts. He did not dare to make a move. After a period of observation, he found out that Yunyi often traveled between the Jade Spring Mountain and Linji Mountain. Every time, she would pass by the Black Rock Mountain. Thus, he had been lying in wait at the Black Rock Mountain. After waiting for Wang Daoyuan to leave Linji Mountain, he did not expect that he would be caught in the middle. Wu Yi's cultivation technique was the most common metal sharp art. The spells that he had learned were also common spells. Among the things that he had learned, the only thing that interested Wang Daoyuan was the incomplete sword cultivator legacy. He had obtained this sword cultivator legacy when he was on a mission. What he had obtained was not a systematic inheritance. He did not even have the sword-wielding technique of the sword cultivator lineage. In this incomplete inheritance, there were only 2 relatively powerful sword cultivator spells that could be cast by borrowing the sword and 2 relatively powerful sword cultivator spells. The 2 sword cultivator spells were the Heaven Cleaving Sword and the 10,000 Sword Art. The Heaven Cleaving Sword was the move that Wu Yi had risked his life to use. The 10,000 Sword Art was to condense many flying sword phantoms to attack the enemy. Perhaps it was because he lacked the sword-wielding technique that was unique to sword cultivators. The power of these 2 spells was very ordinary. However, when he went out in the future, it was quite suitable for him to pretend to be a sword cultivator. Especially when using the sword to cast spells, it was still very valuable. Using the sword to cast spells could only cast some common spells and spells unique to sword cultivators. He could not cast special spells like the Water Dragon art. However, Wang Daoyuan knew many common spells. Using the sword to cast spells to cast offensive spells such as the Golden Saber art would increase the power by a lot. His personality was not suitable for the path of sword cultivator. He just needed to cultivate a little and have an understanding of sword cultivator techniques. There was no need to put in much effort. Wu Yi's black longsword was not bad. It was a mid-grade level 2 magic weapon called the Inky Gold Sword. It was made of level 2 spiritual material, Inky Gold. Inky gold had some effect of avoiding divine sense detection. In addition, this material was extremely hard, and the longsword forged from it was also extremely sharp. This inky gold sword was considered very good among level 2 magic weapons. The reason why Wu Yi's outfit could block divine sense detection was that it had 2 or 3 layers of soul-binding silk added to it. Therefore, Wu Yi regarded this outfit as a treasure. This thing was not much to Wang Daoyuan. After all, there were still a few hundred kilograms of soul-binding silk stored in the space of the spiritual pearl. He had a basic understanding of Wu Yi's situation. As for the sword cultivator legacy, it would not be too late to cultivate it when he had time to go out. It took more than 10 days to deal with the matter of the clone. In 2 days, it would be the day of the Netherworld sex auction of the Foundation establishment pill. It was time for the Wang family to send someone. Wang Daoyuan left the cave abode. At this time, the 12th uncle was preparing to set off. Seeing him come out, Wang Shi asked, "Have you recovered from your injuries?" Wang Daoyuan did not answer directly, but replied with a voice transmission, "I'm not injured, but you have to be careful. Someone spent 50,000 spirit stones to buy your life. There might be a Peak Foundation establishment assassin, but the deal might not be settled yet. My life is also worth 20,000 spirit stones. The assassin who intercepted me was the one who took this job. I've already taken care of him." Wang Shi said with a smile, "Don't worry about such a small matter. I have a lot of life-saving things on me. With my cultivation and some trump cards, I'll be able to defeat him. Unless the assassin kills me with a single blow, even a Peak Foundation establishment cultivator can take me down." With that, he leaked a trace of spiritual power at the 5th level of Foundation establishment. Wang Daoyuan nodded with a smile, not finding it strange. Hiding cultivation was the Wang family's style. Great-grandfather was at the late stage of Foundation establishment and had been pretending to be at the peak of Qi refinement. Great-grandfather was at the 8th level of Foundation establishment and pretended to be at the middle stage. 12th uncle had 2 spiritual roots. His water spiritual root was 8.7 inches. He had been at Foundation establishment for nearly 30 years, but on the surface, he was only at the 3rd level of Foundation establishment. His cultivation speed was even slower than that of ordinary Foundation establishment cultivators. Only he was the most honest and had never hidden his cultivation. Chapter 201. The family's original plan was for the 12th uncle, 8th uncle, and 9th aunt to support the auction. Wang Daoyuan came out of seclusion and rushed to Qingli Market. The 12th uncle and him would support the auction while bringing along second brother Wang Daoxing. After bidding for the Foundation establishment pill, he would let him build his foundation in Clear Glass City. This would also save him from any trouble. The 3 of them took a flying tiger and headed to Qingli Market. With Yun Yi's usual speed, a journey of more than 2,000 miles would only take 2 hours. The price was only 40 kilograms of roasted spirit beast meat. Yun Yi was still relatively naive and hadn't learned how to calculate the price based on the number of people and the volume of goods. After entering Qingli Market, the 3 of them first went to Jade Spring General Store and waited for the auction to begin. Wang Daoyuan and the other 2 weren't people who could stay idle. If they had the time, they would naturally go to the restaurant to eat and drink. The current Drunken Immortal restaurant wasn't like when it first opened. They were afraid that there wouldn't be enough ingredients if there were too many customers. After opening the trade route in Heian County, there was simply an endless supply of spirit beast meat. In terms of spirit wine, the supply of scarlet blood wine was also very abundant. In addition, the 12th uncle had also researched using spirit grains to brew wine and named it spirit grain alcohol. Spirit grain alcohol's ability to recover spirit power was naturally far inferior to scarlet blood wine, but it won in the price of 2 kilograms of spirit stones. Many drunkards and cash-strapped cultivators were the main customers of spirit grain alcohol. Although spirit grain alcohol was far inferior to scarlet blood wine, the speed of recovering spirit power was still much faster than spirit recovery pills. When rogue cultivators went out, fighting was a common occurrence. Being able to quickly recover spirit power increased their chances of survival. The supply of spirit wine and spirit beast meat was abundant. In addition, Wang Daoyuan provided seasonings, as well as the restored Chinese dishes from his previous life. The Drunken Immortal restaurant's business was exceptionally good. Every month, it had more than 2,000 spirit stones in sales. The profits of the Drunken Immortal restaurant had already crushed the Jade Spring Alchemy Seal Pavilion, and it was still growing. Other restaurants also came to the Wang family to secretly learn dishes. Simple dishes were easy to learn, but complicated dishes couldn't be imitated just by eating a few times. Now, the chef of the Drunken Immortal restaurant was 8th sister Wang Daoshu. Wang Daoyuan's restored dishes can't be taught to outsiders. The only one in the family who has the talent to cook is 8th sister. The three entered Drunken Immortal restaurant. The clan members who were working here hurriedly bowed when they saw the clan leader and the two elders. The three of them were only here to eat and drink. They didn't want to cause too much trouble, so they asked for a private room to avoid the gazes of the crowd. Wang Daoyuan scanned the situation in the restaurant and saw Wang Daoyuan Daoist. He stepped forward and greeted, "Fellow cultivator Zhao, it's been a few years since we last met. How have you been?" This familiar person was the Divine Weapon Pavilion's Zhao Yang, the profiteer who sold the Profound Yang sword back then. He uncle, he, and always. To Uncle Wang Tian, uncle to the restaurant, blacksmitherine. He was just a blacksmith. What was the use of stealing dishes? Zhao Yang was still at the peak of qi refinement. Seeing Wang Daoyuan take the initiative to greet him, he hurriedly stood up and bowed. "Thank you for your concern, Senior Wang. I am well." Wang Daoyuan smiled. "Daoyu Zhao, you don't have to be like this. You and I have known each other for many years. Our ages are similar, so we can call each other equals." Zhao Yang repeatedly said that he didn't dare. The two exchanged a few words before Wang Daoyuan took his leave and went upstairs. Wang Daoyuan, 12th uncle, and second brother ordered all the dishes of the Drunken Immortal restaurant, saying that they wanted to know the dishes of the restaurant. In the end, the three of them were so full that they lay down. In order not to lose face, they circulated their spirit energy and refined the food before walking out of the room. This meal was paid by Wang Daoyuan with spirit stones. The patriarch brought two elders to eat and drink for free in their own restaurant. It was too bad of an influence. If they really did that, the other clansmen would follow suit and the business of the Drunken Immortal restaurant would be finished. A few hundred spirit stones were nothing to him. He could casually refine a cauldron of Tier 2 pills or a few low-grade Tier 2 talismans and it would be enough to pay for this meal. 2 days later, the auction of the Foundation Establishment pill officially began. The three of them arrived at the auction house. Last time, Shizhenbang came to cause trouble and burned the entire auction house. Nearly 30 years had passed and the auction house had been restored. The three of them still went to the private room on the second floor of the auction house. It was just that the location of the Wang clan's private room had changed. In the past, it was at the side of the auction stage. Now, it was diagonally opposite the auction stage, right next to the Zifu clan's private room. The current location was naturally much better than the previous one. The auction soon began. This time, the Yang clan and the Liang clan didn't come. The Zifu realm cultivators in the Netherworld sect's territory all had the position of elder in the sect. Elders of the Netherworld sect could buy a Foundation Establishment pill at a fixed price. In addition, they weren't allowed to participate in the auction. Last time, the Yang clan and the Liang clan participated in the auction because the two clans had participated in the Battle of Guiyan Valley. Some Foundation Establishment cultivators had died in battle or killed Foundation Establishment cultivators of two sections. Last time, the auction of the Foundation Establishment pill was in the nature of compensation. Since the two clansmen had died in battle, they naturally could participate. This auction of the Foundation Establishment pill was a routine auction held by the Netherworld sect every 60 years. The Zifu clan wasn't allowed to participate. Without the Zifu clan's participation, the Wang clan's competitiveness in this auction was one of the best. With the Wang clan's current wealth, it wasn't difficult for them to get two Foundation Establishment pills. However, they couldn't show off too much. Previously, the 7 foundation establishment cultivators in one sect had already attracted the attention of the clans in the northern and central parts of Qingli County. If they got 2 more foundation establishment pills, they would have 2 more foundation establishment cultivators. The 9 foundation establishment cultivators in one sect would be too conspicuous. If they were in the limelight too much, they might attract the jealousy of other clans. In the future, they might be hindered by other clans when doing business. Once the Netherworld sect called for more foundation establishment cultivators, the Wang clan would have to send out even more foundation establishment cultivators. If they were unlucky and ran into an elder from a foreign sect, then the Wang clan would inevitably lose foundation establishment cultivators. The last auction of the foundation establishment pills had emptied out the foundations of many clans. This auction also didn't have a discount, so the bidding was much more peaceful. Of the 10 foundation establishment pills, only the first and the last one reached 60,000 spirit stones. The Wang clan got the second foundation establishment pill for 55,000 spirit stones. After getting the foundation establishment pills, the 3 of them immediately returned to the Jade Spring General Store and prepared to let Wang Daoxing reach foundation establishment here. Wang Shi specially brought over a dozen formation plates and set up a high-grade Tier 2 defensive formation in the Jade Spring General Store. The original formations were all high-grade Tier 1 formations set up by the Netherworld sect. They weren't of much use at all. If someone dared to cause trouble, they would definitely be foundation establishment cultivators. A high-grade Tier 1 formation could at most withstand 2 or 3 strikes. The spirit vein in the old market of Qingli County was a low-grade Tier 3 spirit vein with no attribute. The concentration of spirit qi was enough to support foundation establishment cultivators. Furthermore, it was suitable for foundation establishment cultivators of all attributes. Wang Daoxing took the foundation establishment pill and entered Ninth Uncle's cave abode. Activating the high-grade Tier 2 defensive formation, Wang Daoyuan sat in the core of the formation and controlled the large formation. Wang Shui stood guard in front of the cave abode. 2 hours later, a spirit qi vortex with a diameter of more than 90 feet appeared above the cave abode. Wang Daoxing's main spirit root was 7 inches and 9 feet tall, which was also a triple spirit root. His talent was not much worse than his third brother Wang Daochang. A quarter of an hour later, the spirit qi vortex gradually shrank and finally disappeared. A burst of violent metal spirit qi fluctuations came out of the cave abode. Wang Daoyuan used his divine sense to investigate and found that Wang Daoxing's body was shining with a golden light. This was taking advantage of the remaining energy of foundation establishment to cultivate to the 3rd level of lustrous golden body art. Wang Daoyuan didn't understand the world of geniuses. When he reached foundation establishment, he barely succeeded by using all his strength. Unlike his second brother, who succeeded in foundation establishment and still had the energy to cultivate body refining techniques. Now that lustrous golden body art was cultivated to the 3rd level, after he consolidated his cultivation and mastered the sword controlling technique, his fighting strength should be comparable to an ordinary 3rd level foundation establishment cultivator. Chapter 202. Wang Daoxing had been at the peak of qi refinement for a few years, so his foundation was quite solid. After consolidating his cultivation for half a day, he walked out of the cave. He had broken through a major realm and upgraded his body refinement technique, so his qi and blood were almost exhausted. Although foundation establishment cultivators could fast, body refinement cultivators needed to eat a lot of food to replenish their qi and blood, so they usually couldn't fast. After leaving the cave, Wang Daoxing wanted to go to the Drunken Immortal restaurant to have a big meal. As the clan leader, Wang Shi naturally had to express his gratitude for the addition of a foundation establishment cultivator to the clan. He immediately said, "Since Daoyuan treated you last time, I'll treat you too to a big meal this time." As soon as the 3 of them entered the Drunken Immortal restaurant, they saw Zhao Liang still sitting in the corner, sneakily staring in the direction of the kitchen. Wang Daoyuan greeted him and went upstairs to the private room. As soon as the 3 of them entered the private room, a waiter came in. The waiter in the restaurant was a descendant of the clan who had just come of age and had come here to gain experience. This person was called Wang Daoxing. He was in his early 20s and was ranked 26th in the Dao generation. His cultivation talent was average and he didn't have any special skills in the 100 arts of cultivation. He came to the Drunken Immortal restaurant to gain experience for a few years and become a manager in the business hall. Wang Daoxing asked, "Clan leader, elders, what would you like to eat?" Wang Daoxing said, "We have all the dishes in the restaurant. No need to be polite with me. Anyway, it's 12th uncle's treat." Wang Daoxing smiled. "All right, I'll go tell 8th sister now." Wang Daoyuan said, "Wait a minute, 26th brother, what's up with Zhao Liang? I've been here twice in the past few days, and both times I've seen him there, sneakily looking into the kitchen. Does he come here every day?" Wang Daoxing answered, "That sneaky fellow staring at the kitchen indeed comes every day." Wang Daoyuan was a bit puzzled. He asked, "That fellow is a refiner of the Divine Weapon Pavilion. What's a blacksmith doing in the kitchen?" Wang Daoxing stammered, "I don't dare to say it. Otherwise, 8th sister will teach me a lesson." Wang Daoyuan directly called Yun Yi out of the spirit pearl space. Fortunately, the private room was big enough. Otherwise, it would not be able to accommodate Yun Yi's fat body. He pointed at Yun Yi and asked, "You are afraid that 8th sister will punish you? Aren't you afraid that Yun Yi will play with you?" Hearing this, Yun Yi even opened her mouth and licked her fangs that were more than a foot long. The 12th uncle also heard that something was going on here. He stretched out his right hand, and a 5-inch long water dragon moved between his fingers. Wang Daoxing's eyes widened as his body emitted a golden light. Wang Daoxing was so scared that he broke out in a cold sweat. Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, 26th brother, don't be afraid. With the 12th uncle and me supporting you, what are you afraid of? You don't have to be afraid of losing your job. I am now the punishment elder and the highest commander of Linji Mountain. As long as you are reliable and capable, it will not be a problem to arrange a position for you. Besides, it is against the clan's rules to hide something and not report it. This punishment elder is not a decoration. Under the coercion of the 3 people, Wang Daoxing could only confess. That person called Zhao Liang is here for 8th sister. Since more than a year ago, he has been running to the restaurant and shamelessly trying to get close to 8th sister. At first, 8th sister ignored him, but after a long time, 8th sister also has some feelings for Zhao Liang. After hearing this, Wang Shui waved his hand and said, "You can leave first. I will call you if there is anything." Wang Daoxing immediately rolled and crawled out of the private room. Wang Shui said, "The people from Divine Weapon Pavilion are definitely not here for the dishes of Drunken Immortal restaurant. They have always only done business and do not have much contact with the local forces. What does this kid mean?" Wang Daoyuan replied, "I have only gone to Divine Weapon Pavilion to buy a few artifacts and have interacted with Zhao Liang a few times. I do not know his specific situation. This matter is not easy to handle. Logically speaking, if 8th sister is interested in Zhao Liang, there is no need for us to break them up. A marriage between a disciple of Divine Weapon Pavilion and a local family is not in line with Divine Weapon Pavilion's principles. This matter may be Zhao Liang's own idea. His teacher does not know, so it is not good for us to directly express our opinion." Wang Shui nodded and said, "Yes, it is not appropriate for us to oppose this matter. It is also not appropriate for us to be too active. If Zhao Liang's teacher does not agree, it would seem that our Wang family is too shameless." Wang Daoxing said impatiently, "You people are thinking too much. Just call 8th sister up and ask her. Don't you feel a headache thinking about it?" Wang Shui smiled and said, "That makes sense. What is the use of us frowning here? Let's ask Dao Shu for her opinion." After saying that, he sent a voice transmission to Wang Daoshu, asking her to come up. Before long, Wang Daoshu came to the private room. Wang Shui asked, "Daoshu, it is more appropriate for 9th sister to ask you about this matter. But since I am here today, then I cannot ignore it. I also know a little about you and Zhao Liang's matter. If that kid is really interested in you, I naturally won't object." It's just that the Divine Weapon Pavilion has always only done business and does not have any other association with the local forces. Zhao Liang is a member of Divine Weapon Pavilion. If he wants to marry you, the resistance might be very great. She was so embarrassed that her face flushed red. She lowered her head and did not speak. Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, "Eighth sister, since you are embarrassed to say, then go down first. Let's have a chat with Zhao Liang." Wang Daoshu withdrew. Wang Daoyuan sent a voice transmission to Zhao Liang, asking him to come up for a chat. Before long, Zhao Liang entered the private room and bowed to the three people. As an elder, it was not too appropriate for Wang Shui to speak first when facing Zhao Liang. Second brother was basically a blockhead in this aspect. He could only ask himself. Wang Daoyuan asked, "Dao Yu Zhao, I also know about the matter between you and my eighth sister. I think Dao Yu Zhao is clearer than me about the rules of Divine Weapon Pavilion. I'm afraid your teacher still doesn't know about the matter between you and my eighth sister, right? I wonder how Dao Yu plans to deal with this matter. Do you really want to marry eighth sister, or are you relying on the power of Divine Weapon Pavilion to cheat? If it's the former, then inform the seniors of Divine Weapon Pavilion as soon as possible. If the seniors of Divine Weapon Pavilion don't agree, then break it off early. Don't delay eighth sister. If it's the latter, although the Wang family is weak, it is not to be bullied by others." Zhao Liang was at a loss for words by Wang Daoyuan. After thinking for a long time, he replied, "I naturally sincerely want to marry Dao Shu. It's just that I have not considered the rules of Divine Weapon Pavilion. Thank you, senior, for your guidance. I will go back and ask Master. If Master agrees, I will definitely marry her openly. If Master doesn't agree, I will definitely not pester her anymore." Finished speaking, he left the Drunken Immortal Inn. Wang Shui sighed and said, "This matter is really troublesome. If Zhao Liang's master doesn't agree, it's fine. If the two don't pester each other, it will be good for both sides. If he agrees, our Wang family will also be in a dilemma. If Dao Shu marries out, the business of Drunken Immortal Inn will be affected, and that is a small matter. The main thing is the marriage with Divine Weapon Pavilion. There will be villains at Netherworld sect fanning the flames, saying that our Wang family is disloyal. At that time, our Wang family's days will not be easy." Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, "Why think so much? Take one step at a time. Our Wang family has been wearing the Netherworld sect's shoes for more than 300 years. The more difficult days have passed, why are we still afraid of this? The matter of two Qi Refinement Juniors, Netherworld sect will not have too big of a reaction." Not long after, the wine and dishes were served. Wang Daoyuan and Wang Shui did not have much appetite. But Wang Daoxing's appetite was not affected at all, and he finished most of the dishes. Chapter 203. After the meal, Wang Shui and Wang Daoxing took the Flying Tiger back to Jade Spring Peak, while Wang Daoyuan stayed in Clear Glass City. As the clan leader, Wang Shui still had matters to attend to in the clan. Wang Daoxing had just reached Foundation Establishment and was in a hurry to cultivate the sword kinesis technique. Arrangements had been made at Linji Mountain, so it was not a big problem whether Wang Daoyuan went or not. Eighth sister and Zhao Liang's matter had to be handled by someone with enough authority. Only Wang Daoyuan had the least amount of time to spare. He might as well refine pills and make talismans in the cave abode in the backyard of the Alchemy Seal Pavilion and wait for news from Zhao Liang. This kid was not kind. He treated him as a friend, but he wanted to be his brother-in-law. After the conversation that day, Zhao Liang suddenly stopped and did not come to the Drunken Immortal Inn for several days. Eighth sister was a little worried that something had happened to Zhao Liang. Wang Daoyuan did not mind. If this matter was successful, it would bring a lot of trouble to the Wang family. He could not see the benefits for the time being. After all, Zhao Liang was only a Qi refinement cultivator and an inferior grade Tier 2 weapon refiner. A person's words carried little weight, and it did not affect the decisions of the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Therefore, his attitude was that it was best if it failed. The Wang family had always been very humane. As long as it was not betraying the family's interests, everything was negotiable. Since Eighth Sister had been tricked by Zhao Liang, this shameless guy, the Wang family would not object. Even if she got married, as long as she did not reveal some of the Wang family's secrets and did not do anything that harmed the family's interests, it did not matter. In the blink of an eye, a month had passed. Zhao Liang did not come again. Wang Daoyuan was very glad. It seemed that this matter had failed. Just as Wang Daoyuan was about to leave Clear Glass City and continue to bully the demon beasts at Linji Mountain, a huge pressure descended from the sky. Wang Daoyuan immediately flew up on his sword and saw an old man with a white beard and white hair standing on an auspicious cloud above the drunken Immortal Inn. There was another person standing behind the old man. It was Zhao Liang. Even Zifu disciples would have to fly through the air on magic treasures. However, the senior in front of him was directly riding a cloud in the air. Only a golden core cultivator could do that. Wang Daoyuan had never seen a living golden core cultivator before, but the golden core cultivator in front of him looked a little unbearable. His hair bun was crooked, and there was a lot of messy hair around it. His beard seemed to have been shaved off by someone with a sword, but only half of it had been shaved off. Half of his beard was longer than the other half. His clothes were a bit messy and torn in many places, as if he had just gone through a great battle. No matter how unsightly his image was, he was still a golden core cultivator, an existence that could wipe out the Wang clan with a wave of his hand. Wang Daoyuan didn't dare to be negligent. He immediately bowed and said, "Junior Wang Daoyuan of the Jade Spring Wang family welcomes Senior." The Jindan cultivator glanced at him and asked, "You were the one who forced my disciple, Zhao Liang?" Hearing this, Wang Daoyuan was shocked. This brat Zhao Liang actually had a golden core master, and he even came to denounce him. Just as he was about to refute, another person flew over on a sword. It was Yang Yong. Yang Yong flew in front of the three people and cupped his hands towards the golden core cultivator. "Junior Yang Yong, the guardian of Clear Glass City, greets Senior. My Netherworld sect and Divine Weapon Pavilion have an agreement. Divine Weapon Pavilion is not allowed to casually make a move in Netherworld sect's territory. Senior, please don't break the rules." The Golden Core Cultivator glanced at Yang Yong and said, "I don't need you to remind me. Besides, I don't have the intention to kill this brat. I'm here to propose marriage." "Alright, don't stand in the sky and make a joke out of yourself." Wang Daoyuan immediately landed in front of the drunken Immortal Inn and cupped his hands towards the sky. "Senior, please come in for a chat." The Golden Core Cultivator and Yang Yong both landed in front of the drunken Immortal Inn. Yang Yong saw that the person who came wasn't looking for trouble, so he didn't follow and turned to leave. Wang Daoyuan brought the Golden Core Cultivator and Zhao Liang into a private room and invited them to sit down. He cupped his hands and asked, "Senior, may I ask if Zhao Daoyu is your descendant by blood?" The Golden Core Cultivator didn't understand and replied, "No." Wang Daoyuan's expression changed slightly and turned to ask Zhao Liang, "May I ask if Zhao Daoyu is related to the previous dynasty's imperial family?" Zhao Liang looked around, not knowing if he should say or not. The Golden Core Cultivator said, "Just say it. With me here, no one will dare to eavesdrop." Zhao Liang sighed and said, "I won't hide it from Daoyu. I'm the Lai Emperor's great-grandson. My grandfather is the Lai Emperor's eldest son." The Golden Core Cultivator was curious and asked Wang Daoyuan, "You're quite smart. How did you guess?" Wang Daoyuan cupped his hands and said, "Senior, please don't take offense if there's anything wrong with what I said. This Daoyu Zhao has 3 types of spiritual energy fluctuations on his body. He's at least a cultivator with 3 spiritual roots. He's about the same age as me and has a famous teacher to guide him, but he's only a second-grade weapon refiner. Whether it's his cultivation talent or weapon refinement talent, he can't be considered outstanding. Senior, you're a Golden Core Cultivator, but you've personally come to propose marriage for Daoyu Zhao. With Zhao Daoyu's talent, he's not worthy of your attention. Daoyu Zhao isn't your blood relative. The reason why he's able to become your disciple and be valued so highly by you is very likely because of a favor. To be able to make a golden core cultivator owe him a favor and have the surname Zhao, I'll make a bold guess that Dao Yu Zhao is related to the previous dynasty's imperial family. The golden core cultivator stroked his beard and said, "Good lad, you're quite clever. You can even guess this. I do indeed owe his elders a favor, which is why I took him in. However, you're quite boastful, little lad. Although this disciple of mine isn't very talented, he's already a second-grade weapon refiner in his 40s. You're looking down on his achievements. I wonder how are your weapon refinement skills?" Wang Daoyuan smiled apologetically. "I don't know much about the Dao of weapon refinement. I've only cultivated elixir, talisman and formation. Right now, I'm only at second-grade elixir and talisman. My formation skills are slightly weaker at second-grade elixir and talisman." The golden core cultivator was speechless for a long time. After pondering for a long time, he said, "I'm an honest man. You're too scheming and not to my liking. Otherwise, with your talent, I'll definitely take you in as my disciple no matter what. On account of your extraordinary talent, I'll give you some pointers. Since you've cultivated elixir, talisman and formation, you should have realized that runes and formation patterns are similar. At the peak of the Dao of elixir refinement, there are also elixir patterns that are similar to runes and formation patterns. In the ancient times, it was said that one would be able to peek into the Dao after mastering all 4 Daos. Since he had already learned all 3, he wouldn't be lacking in weapon refinement. The art of weapon refinement is mainly divided into 3 parts: refining materials, forging and inscribing. Refining materials is similar to extracting the essence of elixirs. Since you know how to refine elixirs, this shouldn't be a problem for you. Forging and forming is a painstaking job without any tricks and can only be done through practice. The most important thing is inscribing. Since you're proficient in talisman and formation patterns, this shouldn't be a problem for you. As long as you're willing to put in the effort to learn weapon refinement, you should be able to achieve quite a bit. I've lived for 800 years and have seen many people with decent talent in the 4 Daos. However, none of them had the energy to be proficient in all 4 Daos. Yet, you're able to have such high attainments in all 3 Daos at such a young age without affecting your cultivation. You can give it a try. I also want to see if the ancient rumors are credible. I'm here today to propose a marriage for my good-for-nothing disciple. I wonder if the Wang family is willing to become in-laws with me?" Wang Daoyuan stood up and cupped his fists. "Please forgive me, senior. I dare not agree." Chapter 204. The golden core cultivator slammed the table and said angrily, "What? Is your Wang family looking down on me? Not to mention you. Even if your ancestor was still alive, he would still have to give this old man some face. I am a golden core cultivator, and Zhao Liang is my disciple. Master and disciple are like father and son. Is my direct disciple not worthy of your Wang family's girl?" Wang Daoyuan felt a lingering fear. Fortunately, the family box had a soundproof array. Otherwise, if he continued shouting like this, nothing could be kept secret. He hurriedly apologized. Since the Wang family's ancestor passed away, they have been struggling at death's door under the wings of the Netherworld sect. Even rogue cultivators don't dare to slight them, not to mention Zhao Daoyu is a golden core direct disciple. It's just that the Wang family is under the protection of the Netherworld sect. If the marriage alliance with the Zhao royal family is leaked, the Wang family will be exterminated. Moreover, the seniors of the Divine Weapon Pavilion will not agree to the marriage alliance with the Wang family. Even if Daoyu's identity is not exposed, the Wang family will be suppressed by the Divine Weapon Pavilion. For the lives of dozens of cultivators and hundreds of thousands of ordinary family members, Junior does not dare to agree to Senior's request. The Golden Core cultivator sighed and said, "Disciple, it's not easy for you to get a wife." Wang Daoyuan thought for a while and said, "If Daoyu insists on marrying, the Wang family will not dare to refuse. But to protect the clan, they can only expel 8th sister from the family. After that, eighth sister changed her name and has nothing to do with the Wang family. The Golden Core cultivator said angrily, "Nonsense, I, Lei Yanjinren, have lived for 800 years. Some people say I am unreasonable, pestering endlessly, and a fool, but no one said I bully the weak. For the sake of my disciples' marriage, I can't do something like forcibly breaking up a family. Isn't it just the Netherworld sect? I just beat up a few old fools of the Divine Weapon Pavilion. I don't care about beating up a few more. I'd like to see how long those wandering souls of the Netherworld sect can last under my thunder technique." Wang Daoyuan sent a voice transmission to Ba Mei to come over. After a while, Ba Mei entered the private room. Wang Daoyuan asked, "Eighth sister, this Zhao Dao Yu is a direct descendant of the former Emperor Lai. If you marry him, your family will be suppressed by the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Once Zhao Daoyu's identity was exposed, the Netherworld sect might exterminate him. If you're willing to marry him, the family won't stop you. However, for the survival of the clan, I can only expel you from the Wang clan. From now on, you will no longer have anything to do with the Wang clan. You are also not allowed to have any contact with the people of the Wang clan. Are you willing?" Hearing this, Wang Daoshu's tears gushed out. After crying for a long time, she finally said, "I can't bear to leave my parents, but I also can't bear to leave Zhao Liang. In order to not make things difficult for the family, I am willing to leave the family and never contact them again." At this moment, Zhao Liang's eyes were also filled with tears. He cried and said, "No need. Since I can remember, the people around me died one by one in order to protect me. Because of the title of the great-grandson of the Lai Emperor, my grandfather and father hid in the mountains for 300 years, not daring to show their faces. Even so, they were still hunted down by the three major sections. The people who followed my grandfather were killed one after another. Until I was 10 years old, Grandpa Zhao Zhong, who had brought me up, also died. Before he died, he entrusted me to Master and used his own grandson to die in my place. If not for Master's protection, I wouldn't have lived until now. Because of my marriage, Master also beat up a few Jin Dan stage elders of the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Now, he also forced Dao Shu to cut ties with her family. Other than Master and Dao Shu, I have nothing. Only the four of us know my identity. Outsiders all think that I'm dead. The title of Lai Emperor's direct descendant is useless to me." After saying this, he knelt on the ground and kowtowed to Lei Yanjinren, saying, "Master has already done too much for me. I don't want Master to risk his life for me. I've decided to change my name, leave the Divine Weapon Pavilion, and marry into the Wang family. I've failed Master's teachings and betrayed the sect, smearing Master's face." Lei Yanjinren sighed, saying, "Forget it. Since you've made your decision, Master won't stop you. As long as you have a place to go, this old man's debt to your grandfather can be considered repaid. Although you marrying into the Wang family is a loss of face, this old man doesn't care. I can't even decide for my own disciple's marriage. I've already lost all my face. Just leave the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Since we're master and disciple, I won't expel you." Lei Yanjinren paused for a moment, then turned to Wang Daoyuan, saying, "In the future, if someone makes trouble for the Wang family because of Zhao Liang's identity, as long as this old man is still alive, I'll definitely stand up for the Wang family. Are you satisfied now?" Wang Daoyuan replied, "Junior naturally has no objections. It's just that this matter is of great importance and I don't dare to make a decision on my own. I need to report to the Patriarch and let him decide." Lei Yanjinren snorted, saying, "He's also not a straightforward person. You go and discuss it. I'll stay in the Drunken Immortal Inn for a few days." Zhao Liang praised this girl's culinary skills to the heavens. This old man also wants to taste my disciple's wife's culinary skills. Wang Daoyuan immediately rode Yun Yi back to the Jade Spring Peak and reported this matter to Patriarch Wang Shui. Wang Shui pondered for a long time and said, "There's no harm in agreeing. Including me, only 5 people know Zhao Liang's true identity. The Netherworld sect thinks that he's already dead. As long as we don't speak of this matter, there's no possibility of it being exposed in a short period of time. Furthermore, Lei Yanjinren can still protect the Wang family for 200 years. Whether or not the Netherworld sect can hold on for another 200 years is another matter. 200 years is enough for us to move the family's foundation to the Five Elements Mystery Realm. At that time, why would we be afraid of the Netherworld sect? No matter what, Zhao Yang is still a second-rank weapon refiner. If he marries into our Wang family, he can at least bring us the legacy of weapon refinement. Our Wang family won't lose Dao Shu, this chef. Since I've agreed to this matter, I'll leave it to you to handle. After receiving the order, Wang Daoyuan informed the Grand Elder. The arrangements for the wedding had to be approved by the Grand Elder. Thereafter, he rode Yuni once more and headed to Clear Glass City. When he arrived at the Drunken Immortal Inn, the golden core was still in his original private room. However, he was feasting and there were dozens of empty plates on the table. His hands were greasy and even his beard was stained with meat. He did not have the image of a senior expert at all. When he saw Wang Daoyuan staring at him, Lei Yanjinren said nonchalantly, "I'm a dual body and energy cultivator and can be considered half a body tempering cultivator. Body tempering cultivators don't need to abstain from eating, so what's wrong with eating more?" Wang Daoyuan hurriedly apologized, "Please forgive me, senior. I thought that senior experts don't eat and lost my composure for a moment. Please forgive me. Also, the patriarch has already agreed to this marriage and ordered me to handle it." The golden core pulled the tablecloth and wiped his hands and mouth, saying, "Your patriarch is much more straightforward than you. Then, I'll wait here for you to send someone to welcome my disciple into the family. Since my disciple has already decided to leave the Divine Weapon Pavilion, it's not appropriate to hold the wedding at the branch of the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Let's decorate this restaurant and let him get on the sedan chair here." With that, he looked at Yuni outside the door and asked, "If I'm not wrong, that fat and shapeless mount of yours should be Yuni Tiger, right?" Chapter 205. Wang Daoyuan replied, "It is indeed a Yuni tiger, but I fed it too much and made it too fat." Daoist Lei Yan stroked his beard and smiled, "Little friend, you are quite lucky. Although I don't know how to tame beasts, I have a few old friends who do. According to them, this Yuni tiger is the only second-rank land beast that can fly, and it seems to be quite extraordinary. Moreover, Yuni tigers are extremely rare, even those old friends of mine have never raised one. It's just that the ancient legends say that Yuni tigers are a mutated species, but it doesn't say what's so special about them. Little friend, since you are so lucky to get a Yuni tiger, you must raise it well." Wang Daoyuan cupped his hands, "I will follow senior's teachings." Daoist Lei Yan waved his hand, "My disciple will marry into the Wang family, so we are one family, no need to be so reserved. I don't care about how the wedding is going to be arranged, just follow the Wang family's rules. There is no need for betrothal gifts, I don't care about that. What I care about, your Wang family can't take out. I feel that the food in your Wang family's restaurant is not bad. I will eat a few meals here, consider it as a betrothal gift." Wang Daoyuan bid farewell and left to prepare for the wedding. Of course, there weren't many things that he needed to prepare. These things were naturally arranged by the elders in the family. There was no need for a foundation establishment cultivator like him to take care of these things. 7 days later, all the preparations were completed. Wang Daoyuan went to ask Daoist Lei Yan when to welcome the bride. When he saw Daoist Lei Yan, he found that he was refining food. He had eaten too much. A Jindan true acknowledgement was actually the same as Wang Daoxing. Probably all body refiners were like this. Seeing Wang Daoyuan come, Daoist Lei Yan asked, "Have you arranged everything?" Wang Daoyuan replied, "All the preparations have been completed, I only ask senior to set a date." Daoist Lei Yan burped, "I have heard that the Wang family's rules are a bit like those of a mortal family. I don't have that many rules. Since I'm ready, I can come and pick you up tomorrow. It's up to you how you want to do it. Just have the two newcomers toast to me." After Wang Daoyuan received Daoist Lei Yan's approval, he immediately returned to report the news and prepare for the wedding the next day. Early the next morning, everyone from the Wang family set off from Jade Spring Peak. heading towards Clear Glass Market to escort the bride. The distance between Jade Spring Peak and Clear Glass Market was more than 2,000 li. Ordinary clansmen were unable to fly, so a round trip would probably take 2 to 3 days. It would take too much time. Therefore, Wang Daoyuan added some accessories for Yin Yi. He carried a large red palanquin on his back and pulled a boat that was 50 feet long and 10 feet wide behind him. Wang Daoyuan inscribed a floating array formation on the ship. Although Wang Daoyuan's current level of array formation was not enough to inscribe a floating array formation and a propulsion array formation on a boat at the same time. However, inscribing only one array formation was not a big problem. The propulsion array formation could be replaced by Yin Yi. Yin Yi was not very willing to hang so many things. Only when Wang Daoyuan promised to give it double the roasted meat did it reluctantly agree. Wang Daoyuan led the way on his sword, while Yin Yi followed behind. Eighth sister, Wang Daoshu, was wearing a phoenix coronet and a robe. She sat in the palanquin on the back of a tiger. The wedding procession sat on the boat behind Yin Yi. After an hour, they arrived at the top of the Drunken Immortal Inn. Yin Yi landed in front of the Drunken Immortal Inn, and the wedding procession behind her got off the boat. Wang Daoyuan played the role of a matchmaker and went upstairs to greet them first. 12th sister, Wang Daoxian, helped Wang Daoshu down from the palanquin and accompanied her into the Drunken Immortal Inn. Wang Daoyin also followed behind to welcome the groom. At this time, Zhao Liang was also wearing a wedding robe. Seeing Wang Daoshu come in, Daoist Lei Yan nodded in satisfaction. When Wang Daoyin came in, Daoist Lei Yan's face immediately changed. Wang Daoyuan's heart also sank. He did not know what happened to Daoist Lei Yan. He hurriedly asked, "Is there something wrong in front?" Daoist Lei Yan walked towards Wang Daoyuan. Wang Daoyuan immediately stood in front of him and said with a smile, "My younger brother is young and ignorant. If there is anything wrong, please forgive him." Daoist Lei Yan's divine sense directly probed Wang Daoyin. Then, a gust of wind blew and pulled Wang Daoyin over. Daoist Lei Yan put his hand on Wang Daoyin's wrist and pondered for a moment. He asked, "Is your younger brother's appetite especially big? He digests spiritual items very quickly and his cultivation speed can't increase?" Wang Daoyuan hurriedly answered, "It is as senior said. My younger brother has been like this since he was young. Before he started cultivating, he could eat 2.5 kilograms of spiritual grains. The spiritual energy he cultivated and the spiritual energy he ate would be automatically absorbed by his body, causing his cultivation speed to slow down. Senior, do you know the reason for this?" Daoist Lei Yan stroked his beard and laughed, "This is my best successor. It just so happens that I also have this physique. I have been searching for a successor for hundreds of years and have seen many geniuses with thunder spiritual roots. However, those with thunder attribute physiques are few and far between. Those with the same physique as mine are even rarer. Before this, I only met a junior with the same physique as mine. However, because he lacked a cultivation method when he was young and did not have enough resources to nourish his body, his special physique was crippled. I originally thought that I would not be able to find a suitable successor in this lifetime. Who would have thought that I would meet him here? This kid is really lucky to have a genius like you as his elder brother. He doesn't lack cultivation resources. Although he doesn't have a suitable cultivation method, he has enough resources. His physique is not crippled. Kid, are you willing to take me as your master?" Wang Daoyin was at a loss. He looked at Wang Daoyuan and asked for his opinion. Wang Daoyuan nodded and said, "What are you standing there for? To be able to take me as your master is the fortune of 8 lifetimes." When Wang Daoyin heard this, he immediately wanted to kowtow. Daoist Lei Yan quickly supported Wang Daoyin and said, "Kid, you are an honest person. You are not like your elder brother who is full of tricks. However, I cannot accept a disciple so casually. I intend to let you be my successor. When a golden core Daoist accepts a successor disciple, there must be a ceremony. I will accept you as my disciple first. After your senior brother Zhao Liang's wedding, we will formally take you as my disciple. As for the wedding, you can continue. Zhao Liang brought Wang Daoshu and toasted Daoist Lei Yan, thanking him for his nurturing and teaching. Afterwards, Wang Daoyin led the way. Everyone left the drunken Immortal Inn. Zhao Liang and Wang Daoshu sat in the bridal sedan on Yunyi's back. Wang Daoyuan continued to lead the way in front. Yunyi brought the bridal sedan and boat and followed closely behind. Daoist Lei Yan also followed behind on a cloud. The group soon arrived at the Jade Spring Peak. Everyone in the Wang family came out to welcome the arrival of a golden core Daoist. Daoist Lei Yan waved his hand and said, "No need to be so formal. This old man and the Wang family can be considered relatives. Just do what you want to do with the wedding. Don't worry about me." The wedding went on as usual. The newlyweds came to the north bank of the Jade Dragon Spring and bowed. Wang Daoshu's parents were also mortals of the family. But since their daughter was getting married, they naturally had to come. Daoist Lei Yan and Wang Daoshu's parents sat together on the main seat and received the newlyweds' worship. The wedding of an ordinary member of a cultivation family was usually celebrated within the family. No other guests were invited. After the ceremony, the newlyweds entered the bridal chamber. The others continued to eat and drink. The decorations on the Jade Spring Peak did not need to be removed. They only needed to be slightly changed for Wang Daoyin's apprenticeship ceremony a few days later. Chapter 206. On the second day after the wedding, Wang Daoyuan asked Perfected Lei Yan, "Senior, my younger brother wants to be your disciple. The elders in my family would like to invite families with good relations to participate in the ceremony. What do you think?" Perfected Lei Yan said, "After I return to the Divine Weapon Pavilion, I still have to hold the ceremony. You guys can do whatever you want, I won't interfere. I'll just show my face at that time." With Perfected Lei Yan's words, the Wang family started to prepare for the ceremony. When a golden core perfected cultivator accepted a disciple, they usually only held one ceremony. There were a few like Wang Daoyin and Perfected Lei Yan, whose master and disciple belonged to different factions, so they each held a ceremony. The main character of the ceremony was Wang Daoyin, and the organizer was the Wang family. The gifts were also from the Wang family. The main character of the ceremony was Perfected Lei Yan, and the organizer was the Divine Weapon Pavilion. When Perfected Lei Yan agreed to show his face, the Wang family quickly sent out invitations to their friendly families. The Yang family was naturally on the list of invitations, including the Li family and a few other families in Heian County. The Wang family also sent out invitations. Considering that some families were further away, the ceremony was scheduled half a month later. Wang Daoyuan even rode Yunyi back to Qingxi village to pick up his parents. In the cultivation world, the relationship between master and disciple was very important. There was a saying, "Seeking a master is like reincarnation." Acknowledging a master was more important than marriage. If one's parents were still alive, they had to be present. Half a month passed quickly, and the day of the ceremony arrived. Perfected Lei Yan was from the same generation as the Wang family's patriarch, and he was also a golden core elder of the Divine Weapon Pavilion. The Divine Weapon Pavilion was one of the top factions in Beiyuan Shoshin. It was not something that the Netherworld sect, which only occupied a third of Zhao, could compare to. Therefore, the invited families would definitely not let go of this opportunity to get close to the Divine Weapon Pavilion's golden core elder. Under such circumstances, the people who came to congratulate the families should be the oldest in the family. The people who received them could not be too low in seniority. Fifth great-uncle and eighth great-uncle respectively received the foundation establishment cultivators above and below 100 years old. The first guest who came to congratulate them was a bit more important. The person who came was precisely the Yang family's ancestor, Yang Yong. Wang Daoyuan and Wang Daoyin were both his direct descendants. When Yang Yong arrived, there was no one in the Wang family who was of the same seniority as him. Only fifth great-uncle Wang Jian could personally welcome him. Wang Jian welcomed Yang Yong into the auditorium. Wang Daoyuan's family of 4 bowed to him. Yang Yong looked at Wang Daoyin and smiled. I didn't think that there would be such a talented person among this old man's descendants, to be able to catch the eye of Venerable Lei Yan. After saying that, he said to Wang Yang with regret, back then, it was such a pity to marry you to the Wang family instead of letting the Wang family members marry into the family. Otherwise, the brothers Daoyuan and Daoyin would be members of my Yang family. After he finished speaking, he walked straight to the main seat of the auditorium and bowed to Daoist Lei Yan, who was sitting high above. Adept Thunderflame didn't have a good impression of the underworld school, and Yang Yong was a Zifu disciple. There was no need for him to reply, so he simply nodded. Wang Daoyuan led Yang Yong to his grandfather. These cultivators with higher seniority were all received by the Wang clan's most senior grandfather. Soon after, the various clans in the Yang family's camp arrived to congratulate them. Furthermore, those who came to congratulate them were all the most senior members of their respective clans. Li Xinghe also brought a few foundation establishment cultivators from the River Sun County to congratulate them. The clans that the Wang clan sent out invitations to send people over. Just as Patriarch Wang Shui was about to announce the start of the ceremony, a black cloud quickly floated over from the west. As the black cloud got closer, an aura that far exceeded that of a Zifu disciple was emitted from the black cloud. This was the arrival of a golden core cultivator. Before Wang Jian could speak, a hearty laughter sounded from the cloud. Lei Yan, Dao Yu has arrived in Clearglass County. I hope that you can forgive me for not being a good host. This was the arrival of a golden core cultivator from the underworld school. Aside from Daoist Lei Yan, everyone in the auditorium went out to receive him. The black cloud slowly descended and a man in his 20s appeared in front of everyone. Everyone in the Wang clan didn't know how to address him. Yang Yong bowed, greetings, sect master. Everyone outside the auditorium also bowed, greetings, sect master. This person was one of the 3 great experts in the Zhao country, the sect master of the underworld school, Luo Jiuyo. Luo Jiuyo was over 8 feet tall and had a handsome appearance. It wasn't the feminine kind of handsomeness, but masculinity. Who would have thought that the underworld school, a sect that played with corpses, would have such a masculine person as their leader? It was easier to accept that he was the leader of the Savage Sun Palace. Luo Jiuyo excused himself and took out a gift box. He placed it at the entrance of the auditorium and walked into the auditorium. Even if the underworld school couldn't be compared to the Divine Weapon Pavilion, Luo Jiuyo was still a golden core cultivator. Daoist Lei Yan also stood up and greeted Luo Jiuyo. Luo Jiuyo smiled. Congratulations to Dao Yu Lei Yan for finding a successor. The Wang clan is a subsidiary clan of my underworld school. Little friend Wang Daoyin can also be considered a member of my underworld school. Now that he has joined Dao Yu Lei Yan's sect, it can be considered as a proof of the friendly relationship between the underworld school and the Divine Weapon Pavilion. He then encouraged Wang Daoyin, little friend Daoyin, after joining the Divine Weapon Pavilion, you have to put in more effort for the harmony between the 2 clans. Although Wang Daoyin had been with his second brother Wang Daoxing for a long time, he was a bit rash. But with Wang Daoyuan's influence, he wasn't a pure brute. He bowed, neither servile nor overbearing, I will follow senior's teachings. Daoist Lei Yan was very satisfied with Wang Daoyin's performance. Luo Jiuyo looked at Wang Daoyuan's parents. A mortal couple can give birth to 2 cultivators, one with peerless talent and the other has already reached foundation establishment. It's really not easy. Both of you are mortals, so you have no use for the things of cultivators. I will reward you with 20 life extension pills. Life extension pills can extend the lifespan of cultivators and mortals, but it is only useful for those who have been seriously injured and whose foundation has been damaged. The upper limit of one's lifespan is fixed. Apart from increasing one's cultivation, no other means can make one's lifespan exceed the upper limit. Wang Fu and Wang Yangshe are both mortals. When have they ever seen such a scene? They were so scared that they didn't dare to speak. Wang Daoyuan bowed, thank you sect master for the reward. Junior's parents have been in the countryside for a long time and have never seen the power of a Jin Dan master. They dare not speak, I hope sect master can forgive them. Wang Daoyuan's answer was appropriate. Luo Jiuyo nodded in satisfaction. He exchanged a few more words with Daoist Lei Yan, then used the excuse of being busy with the sect's affairs and left. Wang Daoyuan thought to himself, looks like the underworld school situation isn't too good. Otherwise, the underworld school's sect master wouldn't have come personally to express goodwill to Daoist Lei Yan. In the whole of Beiyuan Shuxian, about half of the level 3 magic weapons were made by the Divine Weapon Pavilion. More than 70% of the level 4 magic weapons were made by the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Luo Jiuyo fawned over the Divine Weapon Pavilion because he wanted to get support from the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Of course, it was impossible to expect the Divine Weapon Pavilion to intervene in the battle between the 3 major sects of Zhao. However, the Divine Weapon Pavilion could sell more level 3 and level 4 magic weapons, which would be of great benefit to the underworld school. Luo Jiuyo left, and the apprenticeship ceremony officially began. First, Wang Daoyin kowtowed to his parents for raising him, and to the patriarch for nurturing him. Then, Zhao Liang, as Daoist Lei Yan's disciple and Wang Daoyin's senior brother, praised Wang Daoyin and thanked the Wang family for nurturing such an outstanding disciple on behalf of his master. Finally, Wang Daoyin offered tea to Daoist Lei Yan and performed the apprenticeship ceremony. Daoist Lei Yan accepted the ceremony, indicating that he recognized this disciple. The host of this apprenticeship ceremony was the Wang family, so it wasn't too formal. Many important ceremonies, such as the apprenticeship invitation, were only held when the apprenticeship ceremony was held. After the apprenticeship ceremony ended, Daoist Lei Yan praised Wang Daoyin. He also invited everyone present to attend the apprenticeship ceremony at the Divine Weapon Pavilion in the future. Then, Daoist Lei Yan left the hall. The cultivators present weren't fools, and they all knew that these were just polite words. Even Zifu realm cultivators weren't qualified to attend the apprenticeship ceremony at the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Only Golden Core cultivators could receive an invitation. Chapter 207. With the presence of a Golden Core cultivator, the others didn't dare to stay for long. After the banquet, they all dispersed. According to the family rules, Wang Daoyuan's parents gave birth to a foundation establishment cultivator and had the right to enter the family's ancestral temple, receive incense from the future generations, and also have the right to live in the family's spiritual mountain. However, the two of them were used to living in Qingxi village and didn't want to leave their children and grandchildren in Qingxi village, so they didn't want to stay in Yuchuan mountain. The two of them went to the ancestral temple and offered incense to the old ancestor before being sent back to Qingxi village by Wang Daoyuan. For the next few days, Daoist Lei Yan temporarily stayed in the auditorium under the pretext of giving Wang Daoyin time to say goodbye to his family. In reality, it was just to eat a few more meals of the Wang family's delicacies. Most of the Wang family's dishes were recreated by Wang Daoyuan based on the delicacies of his previous life. Although, Wang Daoyuan had only heard of many of the dishes. But in the space of the spiritual pearl, there was plenty of time for his clone to experiment and find the best ratio of fire and seasoning. So far, the Wang family had a total of over 100 dishes, all of which were unheard of outside. Although there was also the path of spiritual cooking in Beiyuan Shuxian, it wasn't valued and there was no systematic inheritance. Therefore, there weren't many fresh dishes in Beiyuan Shuxian, and they couldn't be compared to the food of the empire of gluttons in his previous life. Body refinement cultivators were all gluttons, and they wouldn't be willing to leave until they were tired of these 100 dishes. Wang Daoyuan also took out the dishes that he hadn't passed down to his clansmen from time to time for Daoist Lei Yan to taste. After staying in the Wang family for nearly a month, Daoist Lei Yan felt embarrassed and wanted to leave. However, when he thought of Wang Daoyuan raising Wang Daoyin, this glutton, for nearly 40 years, he felt that he had paid too much. And he had been eating and drinking for free for so long, so it wasn't appropriate for him to just leave. Therefore, Daoist Lei Yan said to Wang Daoyuan, "It wasn't easy for you to raise Daoyin and preserve his physique for so many years. You also taught him the basics of refining, which saved him a lot of effort. I feel a bit sorry for taking him away." What kind of compensation do you want? As long as I can do it, I won't refuse. Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, it's only right that I raise my younger brother. If Dao Yin hadn't met you, he wouldn't have been able to display the advantages of his physique. For you to accept him as your disciple is his fortune and also the glory of our Wang clan. He doesn't need any compensation. Perfected Lei Yan pretended to be angry. I'm a golden core elder of the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Since I've already said it, there's no reason for me to take it back. There were only two things that the Wang clan urgently needed. One was a flying boat for transporting goods, and the other was a supplementary spirit item for establishing the Purple Mansion. There were two types of supplementary spiritual items that had the best effects in establishing the Purple Palace. One was the Yin-Yang Purple Jade, and the other was the Purple Cloudwood Core. In order to open the Violet Palace, a cultivator had to open the Guanyuan Acupoint, which was the lower Dantian, and connect it to the Sea of Consciousness. Then, he extracted the pure Yin Qi from the soul and the pure Yang Qi from the body. The combination of Yin and Yang Qi would produce Purple Qi, which would be used to condense the Purple Palace in the Sea of Consciousness. When the soul entered the Purple Palace would nourish the soul, and the soul would turn into the Divine Soul. If the pure Yin Qi and pure Yang Qi were insufficient, the Purple Qi produced would not be enough to condense the Purple Palace. Then, the breakthrough would fail, and the soul and body would be severely damaged. Of course, this damage was not unrecoverable, but it would take decades to fully recover. The lifespan of a foundation establishment cultivator was only 240 years. How many decades could they waste? Therefore, they needed the assistance of external items that could provide Purple Qi. In the cultivation world, the Yin-Yang Purple Jade and the Purple Cloudwood Core were the only spiritual items that could be produced stably and contained a large amount of Purple Qi. The Yin-Yang Purple Jade was born at the intersection of Yin and Yang underground, and it could only be born when Yin and Yang were in balance. Ordinary Jade was nourished by Yin and Yang Qi, and when both Yin and Yang Qi reached a balance in the Jade, there would be a chance for a strand of Purple Qi to be born. After thousands or even tens of thousands of years of accumulation, the Yin-Yang Purple Jade would be formed. The conditions for the formation of the Purple Cloudwood Core were also very harsh. First, it needed a third-grade spiritual wood, the Purple Cloud Wood. The Purple Cloud Wood had the characteristic of absorbing Purple Qi. It absorbed the Purple Qi in the world and stored it. After countless years of accumulation, it would form the Purple Cloudwood Core, which was similar to a demonic beast's monster core. The Purple Qi in the world referred to the Purple Qi produced when the sun rose in the morning and the sun and moon intersected, coincidentally reaching a balance between Yin and Yang. At this moment, a lot of Purple Qi was produced and spread throughout the world, but it would dissipate in an instant. Although most cultivators would meditate and cultivate at this moment and absorb the Purple Qi at this moment, the amount absorbed was very small. The Purple Cloud would absorb the Purple Qi at this moment, stored it, and accumulated it over time to form the Purple Cloudwood Core. A Purple Cloudwood could not form a Purple Cloudwood Core without tens of thousands of years of accumulation. Even if a Purple Cloudwood was found and transplanted into the space of the spiritual pearl, it would not be able to form a Purple Cloudwood Core. This was because the spiritual pearl's space did not have the conditions to produce Purple Qi. Moreover, the Purple Cloudwood was an extremely rare spiritual wood that could not be found casually. The ability to produce the Yin-Yang Purple Jade and the Purple Cloudwood Core was a hard condition for a force to become one of the top forces in Beiyuan Shouxian. The three major sects of the state of Zhao did not produce these two items. These two items were crucial for the top forces to maintain their status. They were used to exchange resources with other forces. If Wang Daoyuan asked Daoist Thunderflame for these items, it would make things difficult for Daoist Thunderflame. Thus, he did not ask for it. It was more appropriate for him to ask for a flying boat. Wang Daoyuan cupped his hands towards Daoist Thunderflame and said, "To be honest, the Wang clan needs a flying boat to expand the scope of our business. It doesn't have to be of a high grade, as long as it can be used." Daoist Thunderflame wore a difficult expression and said, "Logically speaking, your request is very low. It's easy for me to forge a second-grade flying boat. However, the Divine Weapon Pavilion has an agreement with the three major sects that they are not allowed to provide things to the three major sections. This flying boat is one of the things that is strictly prohibited. So, little friend, please change your request. He couldn't ask for spiritual items for the Violet Palace realm or a flying boat. The Wang clan still had some third-grade magic artifacts in their inventory. A third-grade magic artifact was used to complement the soul of a Violet Palace realm cultivator. Below the Violet Palace realm, only peak foundation establishment cultivators could barely use it. Furthermore, it wouldn't be of much use. There wasn't much use for a third-grade magic artifact. Since he couldn't think of anything that he needed, he said, "Senior, if you have anything that you don't need, just give it to me. Anything that you don't fancy is also a treasure to me." Daoist Thunderflame pondered for a moment before he took out a jade slip and handed it to Wang Daoyuan. "Even if I give you a third-grade magic artifact, you won't be able to use it. There's a magical art here that you can use since you've cultivated a 5-elemental cultivation technique. You should be able to use any magical art." Wang Daoyuan respectfully received the jade slip and scanned it with his spiritual sense. He was shocked when he saw the beginning. He immediately handed the jade slip to Daoist Thunderflame and said, "This magical art is too precious. I don't dare to accept it." Daoist Thunderflame did not take the jade slip and smiled. "Don't worry about it. This Earth Divine Lightning isn't complete and can only be cultivated to the early Violet Palace realm. It can't be compared to the Zhao clan's complete Earth Divine Lightning, which can be cultivated to the peak of the Golden Core realm. This incomplete version of the 5-elemental Divine Lightning is nothing to Golden Core cultivators like me. I'm a Lightning Attribute cultivator and have never learned the 5-elemental Divine Lightning. There's no need for me to learn it. With this, no one below the Violet Palace realm will dare to touch the Wang clan. When you reach the peak of Foundation Establishment, even early Violet Palace realm cultivators won't dare to touch you. With the Wang clan's safety guaranteed, Daoist invisibility will be able to cultivate in peace. I've also taught the Earth Divine Lightning to a few disciples in the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Their talent isn't as good as yours. When you see someone using the Earth Divine Lightning in the future, give them some face." Chapter 208. Wang Daoyuan said with a smile, "If that's the case, then I'll shamelessly accept it. As for the disciples of the Divine Weapon Pavilion who use the Wuxia Divine Lightning, I'm afraid I'll be beaten to a pulp. I'm just a Penta Spiritual Roots cultivator. How could I be qualified to be courteous to the geniuses of the Divine Weapon Pavilion?" Lei Yan laughed, "Don't belittle yourself. The so-called Penta Spiritual Roots cultivator trash is just a bunch of ignorant people who think they're infallible. The Divine Weapon Pavilion was passed down from ancient times and existed long before Xiuxian was formed. At that time, Penta Spiritual Roots could be compared to Heavenly Spiritual Roots. Cultivators with balanced Penta Spiritual Roots could be compared to Heavenly Spiritual Roots cultivators with spiritual bodies. Heavenly Spiritual Roots were unconventional and their cultivation speed was fast, but when their realm was high, it was also troublesome. It was just that Penta Spiritual Roots consumed too many resources in the early stages of cultivation. Before the Golden Core realm, their cultivation speed was the worst. But after reaching the Golden Core realm, one would realize that Penta Spiritual Roots actually had great potential. Especially when breaking through to the Yuanian realm, Penta Spiritual Roots had a greater advantage than Heavenly Spiritual Roots. Humans had 5 internal organs, which belonged to the 5 elements. Only when the 5 elements were balanced could the body be healthy. The body and soul belonged to yin and yang. Only when yin and yang were balanced could they complement each other. Penta Spiritual Roots were the easiest to achieve the balance of the 5 elements. The higher the realm of cultivation, the greater the advantage. For example, the creator of the 5 elements Divine Lightning was a Penta Spiritual Roots cultivator called 5 Thunder Spiritual Master. After breaking through to the Yuanian realm, he comprehended the 5 elements Divine Lightning. The current 5 elements Divine Lightning should be called the Lesser 5 elements Divine Lightning Art. It was deduced by 5 Thunder spiritual master using the 5 elements divine lightning art as a template. Of course, the power of a spell was definitely not as strong as a divine ability. But the lesser 5 elements divine lightning art was also an extremely powerful spell. Now, this lightning art was also incomplete. The Gui water divine lightning was still complete in the Zhao royal family, and Lord Linhai's branch should also have an inheritance. The fire divine lightning was also incomplete in the Wanyang palace. It was said that it could only be cultivated to the peak of foundation establishment. There are still 2 lightning arts missing. Wang Daoyuan was somewhat puzzled. He asked, I've always had some doubts about what Senior said. According to the ancient records, Beiyuan Xiuxian used to have many cultivators who surpassed Yuanying. Why was it that in the past 10,000 years, no one had been able to form Yuanying? There's also the problem of the spirit body. Is Dao Yin's physique a thunder spirit body? Daoist Thunderflame stroked his long beard and said, the questions you want to ask aren't really secrets. You'll naturally know once you reach the golden core stage. Although the cultivation speed of penta-spiritual roots cultivators was extremely slow, they had an advantage that was similar to that of heavenly spiritual roots cultivators. That was, other than the major realms, there would not be any bottlenecks that were difficult to break through. Moreover, the more balanced the 5 spiritual roots were, the less likely it was for a bottleneck to occur. Now that you've passed the foundation establishment stage, the fluctuations of your divine sense are very strong, and the cultivation method you practice is also quite advanced. Opening the Purple Palace isn't a difficult task. Given that he was proficient in pills, talismans, and formations, resources were not a problem for him. Thus, his chances of forming a golden core in the future were still quite high. There's no harm in telling you these things now. Beiyuan Xiuxian got its name because it was located to the north of the absolute heaven abyss. In some ancient books, the Beiyuan calendar was used to record the years. The first year of the Beiyuan calendar was the time when the absolute heaven abyss was formed. After the struggle for hegemony, the various countries no longer used the Beiyuan calendar. Right now, it should be a little more than 70,000 years of the Beiyuan calendar. Before the absolute heaven abyss was formed, this place was a part of a great cultivation world. The heaven/mountain range was also a remnant of the great cultivation world's main spirit vein. After it was cut off by the absolute heaven abyss, it became the heaven/mountain range. As for how the absolute heaven abyss was formed, some ancient records were also unclear. I've also gone to see the absolute heaven abyss. I've only gone less than 100 miles, and encountered danger several times. As for the entire absolute heaven abyss, one couldn't see the end of it. It definitely wasn't something a golden core cultivator could cross. Because the main spirit vein was cut off by the absolute heaven abyss, only the remnant heaven/mountain range was left. Thus, after the absolute heaven abyss was formed, the concentration of spiritual energy in the entire Beiyuan Xiuxian had been constantly declining. More than 10,000 years ago, it was already insufficient to support golden core cultivators to form Yuanying. In the beginning, they could still rely on the spiritual items left behind by their ancestors to form Yuanying. 10,000 years ago, the spiritual items were exhausted, and no one was able to form Yuanying anymore. In the recent few hundred years, the concentration of spiritual energy in Beiyuan Xiuxian had stabilized, and didn't continue to decline, but for some unknown reason. Even if you know about these things, it's useless. As for the matter of spiritual bodies, you should also know a bit. Spiritual bodies and spiritual roots come from the same source. Spiritual roots are formed by the innate 5 elements qi that a person carries before they're born. People with insufficient innate 5 elements qi would become ordinary people without spiritual roots. A very small number of people have extremely sufficient innate 5 elements qi, and the spiritual roots condensed are not completely exhausted, or unable to completely condense into spiritual roots. When the innate 5 elements qi dissipates to various parts of the body, there's a possibility of forming a spiritual body. This kind of person is much rarer than heavenly spiritual roots. According to the amount of innate 5 elements qi, spiritual bodies are also divided into various grades and grades. Some are strong, some are weak. Spiritual bodies are also divided into innate and acquired. Some people have excess innate 5 elements chi in their bodies, but for some reason, they can't form a spiritual body. Of course, if they can't form a spiritual body, the innate 5 elements chi isn't wasted. This kind of person usually has excellent perception, and their cultivation speed is very fast when they're young. Moreover, their cultivation speed of the 5 elements is much faster than ordinary people. Through some methods, they can also cultivate an acquired spiritual body. An acquired spiritual body is far less helpful to cultivation speed than an innate spiritual body. But in terms of perception and cultivation speed of the 5 elements, it's not inferior to an innate spiritual body, and is even stronger. The cultivation method of acquired spiritual body has been lost for a long time. I've only heard of it, but never seen it. There's no rule for the emergence of spiritual bodies. Mortal parents can also give birth to cultivators with spiritual bodies. In addition to spiritual bodies, there's also a special kind of body called treasure body. This kind of body won't increase cultivation speed, and will even slow it down, but it's very suitable for the path of body refinement. As long as the right cultivation method is found and the treasure body's advantages are brought into play, they'll be invincible in fights. Therefore, treasure bodies are also called battle bodies. Mai and Dao Yin's bodies belong to this category. Different from spiritual bodies, the appearance of battle bodies can be traced. Only Yuanian cultivators and above who have cultivated divine abilities have the possibility of battle bodies appearing in their descendants. There's another big advantage of battle bodies. If one can cultivate a suitable cultivation method, the potential of battle bodies can be developed. When one reaches late-stage golden core, they can almost all comprehend minor divine abilities corresponding to battle bodies. It can be said that battle bodies are formed when a minor divine ability is sealed in one's body. Cultivating a suitable cultivation method is just a matter of finding a way to break the seal. Because Yuanian cultivators comprehend different divine abilities, their descendants will also have different battle bodies. Battle bodies are related to bloodlines. Dao Yin and I have the same battle body, which means that we have a common ancestor many years ago. Speaking of which, we're from the same sect. Although the lineage has long been broken, our bloodline has been passed down. Wang Daoyuan cupped his hands and thanked him. Thank you for clearing my doubts, senior. I've thought through many of my previous doubts. Lei Yan waved his hand and said, Zhao Liang married into the Wang family and Dao Yin became my direct disciple. We're all family, so there's no need to be so polite. I've said so much to you because you act appropriately and have excellent comprehension. I don't want you to be prejudiced by a bunch of idiots and affect your Dao path. It's just that you're too scheming that I don't like. How can a good person like you be so scheming? Dao Yin is better. Although his comprehension isn't as good as yours, he's honest. Wang Daoyuan said with a smile, I'm a penta-spirit veins cultivator. I'm not so scheming and wouldn't be where I am today. On the other hand, my second brother isn't so scheming. Why don't you take him in as well? Lei Yan was stunned and said with a smile, You're talking about that kid who cultivated the lustrous golden body art? To be able to cultivate the lustrous golden body art to such a level, his talent is indeed not bad. It's a pity that this old man likes honest people, not stupid ones. You're tuning into the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.